You're an influencer,
I'm a
you are.
real.
Name them,
Oh,
Regulon.
that was cringe. I'm a real
You're
content
an
creator.
influencer.
So, yeah, all right. Well, hello, Chatfish, and welcome to another Fireside Chat. Today, we're going to be talking about a guy named Timothy Kane. Now, for those of you who don't know who Timothy Kane is, he is one of the... this is a very unfortunate pause.
Timothy Kane.
Pause period. There we go. Let's make it a little bit more favorable. But he's a very smart fella who basically made the old Fallout games, you know? And so he's got a reputation, he's got a history, but he raised a conversation and a talking point. And I'm not gonna like quote him. We're just gonna listen to clips of this, but I do recommend you guys check it out for yourself. It's called "How the Internet Changed Game Design" on Timothy Kane's YouTube channel. And so we're gonna play a clip for that, and we're gonna like basically give commentation on this because it's interesting, and I want us to have a conversation about this because I think that this is something that is actually not necessarily anybody's right or wrong, but it's interesting as a point. And so let's just get started. So I'm gonna rewind a little bit into Timothy Kane stuff, and then we'll pause as we get through different talking points.
And what was interesting about these individuals is more than showing how to play games.
So real quick to give context, because we did sort of skip ahead here because I didn't want to like gobble up all his content. He basically is talking about content creators, and he's talking about the history of content creators, how it went from first game devs would make games, they would put those games on shelves, then eventually games started getting labeled and categorized as in RPGs, adventure games, action games, and that's what sort of started to separate these games apart from each other. And then eventually gamer magazines started appearing into the thing after the next decade. Because remember, he started in the 80s, right? So he's been in the industry for 40 years. It's a long time. So he has some experience with some of the stuff. So let's listen to him.
Actually recommending whether you should buy them or not. Differently than journalists. Journalists would frequently say, look at the game. Look at all these, look at the features, and it supports this, and it's very similar to this game, and blah, blah, blah. And then they'd finally give it like, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10 because it was a little buggy, but we liked it. Influencers did something different. They were like, here's a game. I love it. It's for you. And let me show you. And then they show high points of it. Game print magazines, by the way, by the 2010s are already dying. And I think this killed them because why wait for a review when someone you already followed could just tell you about the game and whether or not you should buy it? Publishers responded to this by sending copies of the game to influencers and online channels just as much as they did to game journalists. And that kind of changed things because the journalists were at least, I think, sometimes trying to be objective. I don't think there's any objectivity. I mean, influencers themselves go, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, or I'm here for the hardcore. So many designers like myself, we frequently thought, well, how is a certain event in the game going to look like when someone's playing it live or recording themselves playing it to put up as a...
Now, I'm going to interrupt here because now he's going to move on. But the reason why I find this particular point particularly interesting is because he's right here. You can kind of tell he's talking about, influencers, content creators. It's a buzzword that's often used by the industry, but content creators usually don't refer to themselves as influencers. God willing, I hope that's not a common thing. But yeah, it's almost like a slur.
It's my favorite.
It's like a slur.
Is what I think.
It's like a slur against people like me. But yeah, so like Either way, regardless, right? I mean, he's just an old fella. He may not know the terminologies and stuff. But either way, what he's mentioning is interesting here. But the issue is that I think Tim is also kind of an old guard. You know, he's old man, been around, made games for a long time, but he's obviously become disconnected with basically what the players and what the current era is. And this isn't something that's particularly unique to Timothy. A lot of older fellas and even younger fellas are out of touch with how the industry kind of works and how things are, right? Yes, gaming magazines and reviewers would review games. No, they were not particularly good. No, they were not particularly unbiased. In fact, part of the whole, like, when the Gamergate controversy happened and all that stuff, all those controversies came out, like a decade over ago now, was people got disconnected in the 2010s. And this is something that he's just kind of missing out on, is because people lost faith in them. People trusted these people for a long time with reviews and stuff. And then it started coming out that these reviews were paid and bought for. People would sleep with each other for it. And these controversies, and they're nasty and ugly to talk about, basically is what sort of poisoned the water. It's why people stopped trusting them. And then it created a schism where people started asking questions. And you did get people in the industry asking questions like, yeah, no, the Gamergate dudes are right. But you got them on both sides because it created a schism in the industry, just like it created a schism in the player base. You had, some developers going like, that's preposterous. We're totally infallible. And then you had some developers who, like Brad Wardell, who was like, maybe this should be looked into. Yeah, there's probably something fishy going on. And it's one of those cases where people often don't want to think that things have changed too much, right? This guy's lived through it all, right? He was there from the friggin' 80s, the baby gaming days, right? All the way through the 90s and the roaring 2000s. And then 2010s. He mentions 2010s. I think everybody talks about the 2010s like it's this horrible event.
It was 16 years ago.
It was awful is what it was for gaming. Like that, not necessarily 2010 itself, but it was basically the 7th gen consoles were, going out. The 8th gen consoles were on the horizon. But the issue is, because of everything that had happened, not just the Gamergate nonsense, it's actually much more complicated than just that. That's just surface level. But what was happening in studios behind the scenes and what was changing hands, corporations seizing control of certain like studios and stuff like that, it basically was a turning of the century, basically, for gaming and for the gaming industry, where the mega corporations and large corporations like Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo started seizing a lot more control. So same with EA. And a lot of these guys started grabbing and crushing and squeezing studios. Studios like Visceral, studios like Pandemic, studios like Lionhead Studios, before them Bullfrog, etc. And it wasn't the first time something like this had happened either. There was a publisher called Interplay. Many of you might not remember them, but they were EA before EA was existing, And the reason why, and there was controversy surrounding them too, by the way. But we're not going to get into that because it's a whole other can of worms. But the big thing is that when these things happened, there was usually a common denominator, right? In the case of Mass Effect, people were disappointed. EA was kind of, scamming them a little bit. In the case of Dead Space 3, and these all came out in the same relative couple of years, by the way. Dead Space 3, they forced Visceral to make it a PvP or PvE co-op shooter when Visceral really didn't want to do that, and they meddled with the development direction. And again, different studio entirely, different publisher. Let's look at Creative Assembly. Rome 2 came out in the same ballpark. Same issues. Mass Effect Andromeda, same ballpark. Same issues. It wasn't an isolated incident. Rather, it was a series of repeating and recurring things. And so I can understand why, somebody like Timothy Kane might see, because he's been around for so long. He's seen so many games come and go, right? It might be hard to understand that turning point there if you weren't actually paying attention. So yes, content creators did become more prevalent. This is absolutely correct. And he's absolutely spot on with that. But the big thing I think that he's not quite catching the point is it's not because, they were just easier and faster. It's because people lost trust. People lost faith. Those PC Gamer, game trailers. That's another rabbit hole too. But it's funny because they're all rabbit holes, right? Because we know now. The issue is that these places weren't squeaky clean. These places were taking money, for backroom deals to guarantee positive reviews for their games. And they were being disingenuous. Some of them were even getting in some said games, i.e. Mass Effect 3. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. But yeah, so it was one of those cases where it wasn't an isolated incident. Rather, it was the festering disease that had been in the rot in the industry since the 2000s, and probably even before then, to be honest with you, and it was finally bubbling up to the surface. It finally caught up to the rest of the industry. The publishers and the crackdowns that they were putting on the developers and mounting pressure and meeting demands couldn't be met, right? Halo's decline also coincides with this exact time point. Exactly, by the way. Like I'm saying, I'm not kidding, by the way. That in the 2010s, if you look at a lot of games, there were some good standout titles, but there was a repeating and recurring incident where everything was collapsing inwards around the same point. And this wasn't isolated to just development studios or publishers. This was also game news coverage groups like PC Gamer, IGN, etc. It extenuated much deeper. And so it was basically just the corruption that the industry had basically built up, the, rust or whatever you want to call it, over the existence, because it had been 30 years by that point. 30 years old. It was pretty old, and
The gaming journalists are a disease.
well, yeah, but we got to be careful with joking, because like somebody like Timothy Kane, I don't think he would understand,
No.
in the same vein. He does understand memes and stuff, but like even my old man who just helped me fix my brakes today, we worked together on that. Like, they're smart guys, but they also have a very different view of the world than we do. Like there is a disconnect, and that's because this is going to get a little psychological. I know it's going to be a little weird, but I think this is a connection. The 1990s, many of us were born in the 1990s. We experienced a time in which no one else will ever experience again. We experienced traditional values and traditional media and traditional, like, how to like connect to things because everything wasn't online, but we were also there to bridge the gap between the digital age. We are the bridge holders, many of us. And for those of you who understand what I mean, it was a weird thing to experience. You can understand what he's missing and what older guys are missing, right? When it comes to these older things. But you can also understand like what reasons why things are better now. And we were part of that turning point. And that's the thing, right? When he's talking about news publications and stuff like that, and he has a more like rose-tinted view of them, it's probably because he didn't really experience the rot that they, actually had under the hood. Not to say that everybody, all the games journalists, and especially during that period, were corrupt or anything, but the issue is if you look out through time immemorium, journalism has never been squeaky clean. It has never been honest or truthful. It's actually been muddy, and it's always been muddy. You wind back the clock to the 1930s, you'll find the same stuff, right? You wind back the clock to the 1900s, you'll find the same thing. You wind it back to the 1800s, and I guarantee you'll find the same thing. Because people don't change. The nature of man does not change. The technology and tools we have change. But the overall principle that people can be corrupt and do things for bad reasons is also true. Now, the point that he's also making, by the way, that influencers kind of tailor your view, right? He's not wrong. I wish he wouldn't use the word influencer, but some people, and I think the issue is that we're kind of like ballparking things, right? Many of you, chat, don't like the games I like. Granted, I have tailored my audience to be literally the most combative little bastards possible. But Chatfish like various things, and many of us don't actually like the same style of games. Like, I'll recommend something because that's true. I will. I'll play a game and I'll be like, oh, I really like this game. Or I'll play a game like Expedition 33. Or was it 30? Yeah, 33?
It was 33.
I played
You hated
Yes.
Chatfish.
So to continue my point, I played Expedition 33. I hate Expedition 33. It's not a game for me. However, that doesn't make it a bad game. If you like that game, go out and try it. You might like it. If you like JRPG style games, it's going to be up your alley. But you guys know me. You know what I like. I'm very so on the JRPG stuff. It's not really my cup of tea. And so I have different tastes. And so this is one thing that I think Timothy is kind of mistaking here. The vocal people who are, and I don't want to be mean, but lower IQ, will regurgitate talking points from other people. This is true. He's not wrong. I don't think he's wrong in any stretch of the imagination. Though I think it's blinding him. It's clouding his judgment, right? Because one thing I've noticed with the people who are older that get a little out of touch is they're going to notice, because I've been a content creator not my whole life, but ever since like I was a little kid, you know, like basically a kid, high school, not a little kid, but you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So I got really woken up to the fact that people are going to say things and they're going to be nasty and it's going to rise to the surface. And like they say, the scum rises to the surface, but don't let that deceive you, because that's just loud vocal people. Like, I've been in forums, I've covered games for years and years and years and years. Over a decade, way over. And one thing that's always remained the same is that no matter how much times change, nothing really actually changes how people behave. The vocal people are loud and noisy. They say nasty stuff. The people who don't think will just regurgitate talking points from other people. And it's not really the content creator's fault for this. Now, there are the cases where the content creator is at fault, right? For example, let's say I played Fallout 1, right? And I said Fallout 1 is absolutely the worst game and it's a terrible story and it's garbage, rancid, putrid, bleh. Never play it, right? That's not my actual opinion. My actual opinion is Fallout 1 is very dated, archaic, painful to play, but it's got an interesting story and a fantastic atmosphere. However, the thing is that I think what Timothy's focusing on is the people that are just like rabid, right? Rancid. Now, there are what we call the culture warriors, which are incredibly cringe. So, on both sides of the pendulum, left or right, or whatever, there are people who don't give a shit about video games on both sides. And they're just here to grift. They're just here to be like, support my ideology. And that's all they do. And yeah, they do muddy the water. And so that's why I don't think he's necessarily wrong here. But I think what he's, at least basically when I saw this the first time, I think he's kind of blinded by how much it is. And because of YouTube, everyone can make a video, right? You can make a video. You can make a video. Metallic Chair can make a video. We can all make videos and streams and stuff and talk about it. But the one thing that this age of information has brought us is on the other side of this coin is something spectacular. No longer is the media, the gaming media, in total control. No longer does PC Gamer have the ability to stamp out criticism. No longer does IGN have the ability to silence opposition when there's actually something wrong with something. Or because some studio didn't do something that the IGN guy liked, and now they're getting, dragged through the mud over it. It's just rancid. Because humans, whether you're a content creator, whether you're a PC gamer, journalist, God, I hope you're not.
You are less than human, yeah.
But no, okay, jokes aside. Like, the thing is that when it comes to it, we all have different opinions. Like, nature of humanity, right? I'm wrong about stuff. And I'm wrong about stuff about as often as the rest of you in chat are. Because guess what? We're only human, after all, as the fat man once said. So...
You're never gonna let that fucking video down.
I'm never. It scarred me as a child.
Human. It starts spinning.
It's the worst part is that it was like, they chose that for the song for Mass Effect Andromeda. I don't know why they did that. It's just absolutely...
They were only human after all, kids. It's not their fault they made a bad game.
But yeah, you chat, none of you... I've never seen this happen in a long, long time. I have seen it happen once in my life. You guys don't usually regurgitate my talking points. Granted,
I've seen it a couple times.
Yeah, but that's only when I have a good point, right, chat? Because they certainly don't do it all the time. I wish they would. But yeah, jokes aside, right? Like, for example,
in general, though, I'm referring to like there are lots of people who will simply regurgitate what they've already heard. If you look into any comment section from any review channel, it's just regurgitation.
Yep, Seth Tech says something about an old funny game. And there are different types of content creators. This is one thing I think Timothy Kane should explore more if he gets time. But so when it comes to content creators, there's actually different layers. Because unlike games journalists, where they're just games journalists, content creators aren't actually just a block. It's actually a expansive universe. So when it comes to content creators that talk about games, there is the classical reviewer, who reviews the game. It's like, oh yes, like this game's like this game's like that. Maybe it's a little bit cheeky, aka your Mandalore gaming style review, right? Then yours your Seth Zintak or Maxor review, where it's more so entertaining than it is actually informational. And that doesn't make it bad in any stretch of the imagination, but usually it's going to be something more exciting. For example, Seth Zintek, who I do enjoy, will usually do parodies and comical reviews of things, but he'll usually do it of things he enjoys, rather than things he doesn't. Things that tickle his interests, so to speak. And then there'll be other types of reviewers who just play bad games. I can't think off the top of my head, but like, let's say somebody plays, Life is Strange, right? And they don't like it, and they're a reviewer. Well, yeah, then they're just gonna rage review, and that's part of their shtick, right? Everyone's got a shtick on the internet that they have to use. Rage and screen-based content hasn't really been relevant for, oh god, I don't really know, a decade now.
The angry video game nerd has not really been that much of a zeitgeist as it once was in around
Yes,
early
AVGN.
2000s.
Yeah, because
So
he was
AVGN
he was like
himself is
the
actually
I know, but real quickly, because some people might know this, AVGN, Angry Video Game Nerd, is an old sort of parody reviewer where he'd play like really bad Nintendo games, right? And he'd review them, and he did like little skits. Now go ahead. I just had to give them that primer. Some people might not know. He's
but
super old.
AVGN specifically inspired a lot of really bad review channels who just wanted to do his shtick.
True,
And
copycats.
those as a total have kind of died out because he's no longer the big thing on the internet. But instead of that, you'll get people who are imitating other content creators. If you notice, there's a lot of retrospective videos going on nowadays.
Yep.
And that word's been watered down so much that it doesn't fucking mean anything anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like one of those things, right? So, in the time of Timothy Kane, right? And so here's another problem with Timothy's era. In the earlier eras, one thing that's not particularly talked about is that if a game didn't have a reviewer, right, or a review, or like thing with PC Gamer, it wasn't gonna get spotlighted. Meaning, all you had to go by, and he mentions this in his video too, and I remember this era as a child completely, like it was yesterday actually. I remember going to Media Play, because that was the only place I would go to find video games, right? Our house didn't have internet. We lived out in the sticks, and we'd go to Media Play, and I would go through the aisles, and I would open little boxes, and I would look at the little flaps and the back of the box, and I remember it like it was like yesterday. It was a completely different era. It was always like a mystery because you never knew what these games were. And you were like, had to like look over against dad's like, you can pick one, we gotta figure out which one. You got like an hour to do it while I go browse movies or whatever. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna figure out what game I want. Oh god, what is it gonna be? Am I gonna get something for my PlayStation 2 or am I gonna get something for my computer? Oh my god, I don't know. So many choices. I gotta quickly look. And so I'm like, checking everything, reading the back of the box, reading the little flaps, looking at the picture at the cover, going like, oh, which one's which? And my imagination's playing all these mind games with like how cool it really is, and there's no reviews. Not for me, not with a little kid without internet. And there's no like magazines, because that's before we subscribed to the PC Gamer makes. Then we did subscribe to that, so I experienced that era too. But yeah, so that was like, okay, pick game, dad buys game, we walk out store. I drive home, open box, read manual 6 times, get nauseous because car sick, because vibrating, but keep reading it because oh, I'm so excited, I can't wait to play it, et cetera, right? And that was kind of how that worked. Fast forward a little bit, then you get to the reviewing things where there's articles. Then you can start planning out ahead. Like, oh, cool, Supreme Commander, that looks amazing. I want that. Super duper bad. Supreme Commander, circle it in the little book with a little marker, close it, and then now I know exactly what I'm going to get. And I'm going to read the articles that they wrote. And if it's not in those articles, and it's not in that magazine, it's more of a crapshoot. It has to be like, oh my god, that box really won me over with the back and everything. It's so amazing. It's incredible. But like, that rarely happened. Because when the magazine articles became a thing, it was get whatever was in the magazines. And always read carefully, right? Like the special article section for Xbox Original for Star Wars Battlefront 1, or was it PS2? I can't remember. Either way, one of those magazines I have somewhere where it talked about Star Wars Battlefront 1. That was key because that's what sold me on the entire principle of the game, because I didn't have any fucking thing to know about the game otherwise. How the hell was I going to know about it unless I read about it in the magazine that we had a subscription to? That was the only way to figure out about what upcoming games was. Because before then, it was go to the store, look at the back of the box, try to frantically figure out which one's good, and fingies crossed. The magazines improved the quality, and the overall games I got from those era were in more consistent qualities, a lot better. But again, you still had issues. Nowadays, we have something incredible, which I wish we would have had when we were little. Fucking videos about them. The ability to watch a video and see what the gameplay is like. You're like, interesting, right? Because before then, you had to hope that the magazine had in the back section next to the, titties. Don't tell my parents, but there were titties in the back sections of those magazines. I never told them. I kept that secret to myself. But there was there was a little demo disc and a little paper bag. And that demo disc would sometimes have some clips of like cutscenes for video games. Like one demo disc I have over there on my shelf is a demo disc that doesn't even have Star Wars Battlefront the game on it. It's got a Full Metal Alchemist game, I think, playable demo on it, but it has a video of Star Wars Battlefront showing off the gameplay and footage of it. And that was the first time I'd seen actual footage of the gameplay. And oh my god, excitement through the fucking roof. But at the same time, it was incredibly hard to find these things. And again, if it wasn't in a magazine, games didn't have a chance. That's why, to get back to my point, the issue with magazines is that so many games were missed out on. So many games that were released behind me on those shelves that I got later when it was too late because the studio shuttered their doors. The discoverability of the game was bad. The demo was bad. That did happen back in the olden days. And it still happens sometimes to now, but demos are still good. I'm glad they're making a return. But it's important to...
Yeah, a bad demo will kill a game.
Yeah, because the big thing is that when it comes to these things, right, like, we didn't have a lot of powerful tools. And I remember the early days of the internet, when I first got internet, and it would like load and it would take a billion years. But I remember opening Game Trailers website. If anybody remembers, let me know. Game Trailers was the first channel or website I went to get footage on games. And that was the next tier. And then that was, yes, replaced by YouTubers. But by that point, I was becoming a YouTuber myself. And to be honest, at that point, it was also becoming apparent that those older articles, whether PC Gamer was better back in the olden days or whether, they were bought out at that point, I don't know. In the 2000s, I couldn't tell you. But you could definitely tell as time went on, those articles and things became more misleading as time went on. They would be overpraising or talking about things, but you'd play the game and it'd be like, what? This doesn't have anything. The first great liar I remember, the greatest liar of them all, Peter fucking Molyneux. Peter Molyneux from Bullfrog Studios and Lionhead, overhyping the ever-loving crap out of the Fable series. And I didn't originally buy into the criticism behind it too much because I liked Black and White and I didn't see what he had promised, right? As I got older, I discovered that Black and White 2 was supposed to have multiplayer, was supposed to have an actual skirmish mode, was supposed to have a bunch of other features, and that he just overpromised the ever-living hell out of the game and then under-delivered. And then when I started going through older games and looking at this, I was like, wait, this is a common reoccurring trend where there's promised features or things, but a lot of these promised things were never delivered upon or were lied about or exaggerated in ways that were untrue. And a lot of that is one of those cases of like, yeah, that is kind of scummy. What the hell? Why did they do that back then? Well, it's because they were also kind of, corrupt a little bit. Like, they would get early access to games, and so because PC Gamer and IGN had a monopoly on gaming, they had a monopoly, right? They did. And I know that because you all experienced it too. I know you guys did. We all grew up with that. And it was like, yeah, no, I gotta, if I'm gonna find out about a game, I'm gonna read about PC Gamer Mag, or I gotta look at the back of the box and check the cardboard flaps. And that's it. That's the only information I'm gonna be able to get. Because I didn't have the internet at the time. So there was no other way to get more information about what was this game like. And then that's when videos became a thing. And that's when YouTubers and stuff like that appeared. And I remember, the earliest point I remember was discovering what the hell Half-Life was. After Half-Life 2 was out. I saw it on G4, if anyone remembers that channel. I saw it on G4 and was like, that looks kind of cool. And then I saw it again in Gary's friggin' mod. And I was like, oh my god, that Gary's mod thing looks amazing. What is Gary's mod? Oh, it's a mod thing? What's a mod? I don't really know how that works. Diff internet. So, discovering mods was like an eye opener. But yeah, so like, there was one of those cases of like, oh my god, there's like a thing called Steam and you can like buy games. It's like a store online. Oh, so it was so weird to like the idea of it. And I was like, that sounds so crazy. But yeah, so like times change. And remember,
Times change. Sorry.
don't be sorry. That's fine. I mean, it's a
No,
good
no, no.
joke.
It's like you like you wormed that into my fucking skull. So I didn't
Times change.
say
That trailer scarred me. All right. Speaking of things that were like overhyped and like messed up, like Warlords of
Lords
Draenor.
of Draenor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Times change. Yep, they sure do. But yeah. So the reason why I wanted to have this conversation is because Timothy brings up some interesting points, and I don't think he's wrong at all. I think he's actually right. I think the issue, though, is that he might only see the surface and not see the other parts, if that makes sense. That there are more people, doing stuff. Go ahead, Chumpa and Fuzzy. I know I've been rambling a bit. We're supposed to progress through this video because he's got some other interesting talking points.
Fuzzy should go instead because I have to try to take care of my cat.
Okay,
Oof.
rub your cat's belly. Now, Fuzzy.
Yeah, the main point of contention I really have is he's missing him missing the point on the corruption in the game media that's now practically dead, but with the last few vestiges somehow lingering on, like PC Gamer and IGN, which I don't know how long those are going to be long left over. The same kind of
Kotaku died recently.
Go ahead. What?
Excuse me while I put on my party hat after hearing that.
Wait, what? What did he say? Huh?
I think
Kotaku.
Kotaku died a while ago.
Yeah,
Fuzzy.
they've been dead for ages.
I didn't say Kotaku.
I know, but I'm telling
Yeah,
you that
it's
they've
good
been
as-
dead. Like, yeah.
No carcass. Go ahead, continue.
But yeah, except for the last few vestiges like PC Gamer IGN, which I don't know how those are still around.
Because they sometimes don't do terrible.
Yeah.
They sometimes
But,
just do the bare minimum. But it is a miracle they're still around. You're right.
Yes. The same kind of corruption that's made people walk away from those has, for a long time now, and it took a while again for people to realize it, but it's become more and more rampant and spread. The same kind of corruption has corrupted the content. I'm not even going to say influencer, because honestly, even that's not an accurate or precise term these days, considering the influence part is now limited now. The content creator part is now just as corrupted, if not becoming more corrupt, as eventually people went to them for just an honest take. Yes, you could give your take on it, but at least show me what the game is first. What are the details? Show me some gameplay, show me some examples. Let me see what the type of game it is. It's like people initially went to PC gamers because to bridge the gap between what they were looking for and what they want to seek, and the developers trying to sell these things. The content creators, for a long time, became a better medium for them, bridging the gap. Especially with the rise of videos and YouTube, it became more decentralized. For a while now, that worked. And then what started happening is we saw there's various genres. We just talked about, as Kim's brought with Total War, you can see it again with Mass Effect, or just insert game here, or whatever genre you're familiar with. The content creators started becoming corrupt. They started doing the same thing. They started doing these, hey, come, we'll have this content creator program, like what Nintendo tried to do. Come visit the studio, and we'll have all this fancy dinners and everything, or whatever it is, like that Creative Assembly like they did. I'm only saying Creative Assembly as I'm most familiar with them. And then what you started seeing is strings started being attached, and although there is no sleeping around, the corruption of special backdoor business deals, stuff that we didn't know happened for a while, like Legend Total War exposing the paid content creator beta test that Creative Assembly did, to name an example.
Yeah, it's not even like new or unique, by the way. So that's just like one. Because you mentioned that. There's also this, I almost forgot completely, the Steam Curator program. If anybody remembers what that was like. I was
Yes.
normally a curator, and so I remember. But basically, there was a whole like sites and apparatus to getting early access to keys and stuff like that. Like I've spoken to Ubisoft about this before, and like then they retracted it because like, oh my god, by giving keys to like these people that curate Steam, they could potentially say our game's bad. And it's like, oh yep, well that tends to happen.
Yes. And what you started seeing is, and you saw this with say when the advent of, honestly, this is the only source I could think of, Steam reviews. GOG does have one, but Steam is a larger platform, so I'll focus on Steam. You started seeing the disconnect, and now we're seeing more and more these days. The disconnect between the content creators and many of them and what the paying customer wants and these various communities is becoming more apparent, and a lot of schisms that perhaps people weren't aware of, such as the difference between the PvP hardcore community and what the people that aren't as into that want, and strategy games is a good example of this. We saw the Steam reviews of, hey, we'll listen to content creators focus on this aspect of Battlefield or this aspect of RTS. They focused on them, and I saw this with Storm. I'll focus on Stormgate since that's kind of come and gone. I'll
so
focus on
even
that.
bigger IP. So ignoring Stormgate or RTSs because they are big, but they're not as big. So like ARPGs have this issue too. There is a case of like where he brings up content creators where developers are listening to content creators, and that's a problem. And he's not wrong. He's actually incredibly correct. Like the same goes for like Helldivers 2. The same goes for almost every game. Just because I say something doesn't mean I'm right. In fact, I could be completely wrong. I might have an unpopular opinion. Let me give you some examples. I don't like Crimson Desert. That's an unpopular opinion. The game sold incredibly well. You guys like it. I don't like Expedition 33. The game did incredibly well. Just because I'm a content creator does not mean I'm right. Nor does it mean my opinions are correct on things or whether something's popular or not. It's not a good idea to base everything you do design-wise for me. That's stupid. Make a game, make a good game first. And to get back to Timothy's point here, right? Because he's starting to talk about this, and he's talking about this as like, it's how it constructs the framing of what developers make for their games. Games that when it comes to developers, you shouldn't really listen to content creators. Content creators are not at fault for game developers doing this, by the way. And a good game will do well regardless of what a content creator says. For example, Crimson Desert, Expedition 33, Hogwarts Legacy. All three games that a bunch of content creators didn't like. Hogwarts Legacy, I don't know about that. Hogwarts Legacy, there was a huge cancel mob to try to cancel the game. That were anti-J.K. Rowling because the one incident. We're not going to get into the
Trans agenda.
I wasn't going to get into the mud of it.
Sorry.
But yeah, so like,
fucking fuzzy.
I want to avoid politics if at all possible. But yeah, so just keep it on game development stuff. But yeah, so the big thing is that when it comes down to it, like when it comes to those issues, it doesn't matter, right? Some people try to cancel Hogwarts Legacy. It sold 40 friggin' million copies and is still selling copies to this day. It didn't work. It failed. It
Better than a lot of their live service titles.
Crimson Desert. I don't like it. A lot of content creators didn't like the fact that AI generated content. A lot of people didn't think it was that good. Thought it was kind of mid. However, doesn't matter. Games sold hot like hotcakes. Doesn't matter. The reality is a good game will speak volume. The power of word of mouth is greater than it was before. For example, the prequel Star Wars movies. Phantom Menace, not so good. 2 Attack of the Clones, did not do well. I think it did worse, actually, if I remember right, but I can't remember 100%. Revenge of the Sith did better. What? The 3rd installment? Usually it's trending downwards. Why did it do better? You know why? The power of word of mouth. The ability for Tiamat D-Lord to go up to Saisavant and go like, "Bopata-bopata, I like this game because of this." And then Saisavant's like, "I also like this game." It doesn't require me to, touch them or tell them or like, "Hey, guys, I think that this game is good and this game is bad." Gregors, you can't buy the game I don't like, chat. I don't like this game. You don't get to like it either. That's how that works. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's so outlandish, like the viewpoint. But there are people who are just followers. This is true. There are sheeple. Sheeps are a thing. People who just hear something and believe it. I know this because I know people in my life that are like that, where they'll hear it on TV and therefore it has to be 100% face value. That is, you know, how the world works. Because it said it so on the television. It's like, yep, because the television said so. Because the television.
What we're finding out, at least in gaming, is that's not entirely the case there. As the problem with the content creators is similar. There's another point that's similar to what it was when the game magazines were dominant. You only listen to a handful of people. It's under the assumption, and that's the key part, assumption, and you can't fully blame the developers for thinking this. Is because they thought about this has been standard thinking for a long time in the industry. That those handful of people, you can use that to extrapolate onto the wider paying customer market or the wider gaming market of this is what they want. But as we saw, as word of mouth and the ability to listen to the community, that disconnect breaching, as we saw with, as we've seen with many other games, that those developers, like Crimson Desert, because keep in mind, when you saw a wider backlash against the AI content and all these other problems in Crimson Desert, what did the devs do? They listened immediately. And you're seeing this constantly. You're seeing this constantly, and the content creators actually aren't the best way to sample for what the paying customer wants. When developers can just ask them directly, what you're seeing is a very different result. And that's becoming more apparent, and now the content creator market's left in a pickle of all the time. I mean, yes, if you want their take on it, you can still listen to them, but now they're not the only take they can listen to.
Yeah.
You could actually, it's become a lot easier to just listen to the paying customer of, here's our work, what do you think?
Also, when it comes to like the view set, like I very much think that, again, I think it's the fact that there's loud vocal people, and those loud vocal people are just what makes Timothy's judgment a little bit off here. Because I don't think content creators are really at all that bad. Are there bad eggs among us? Yes, without a
A
doubt.
lot.
There are. But at the same time, it's better now than it was back then. Don't get me wrong, I've got nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses for those eras. Like, up the wazoo, right? But at the same time, nowadays, it's like, okay, I don't like Kibbs's opinion on, this game A. I'm going to watch this other video by this guy who likes this genre a bit more from Game A. And they're going to get a slightly different opinion because it's going to be different people talking about this game. And so it's going to be a lot more maybe in line with it, or a lot more well knowledgeable, right? For example, if you make me review a JRPG game, I'm going to be kind of dumb. I'm going to be an idiot, to be frank. I'm going to be out of touch. I'm not going to understand what's good and what isn't, because guess what? I am a complete tourist when it comes to JRPGs, and I am. I just don't get them like you guys do, and so that's the reality. That's a fact, right? And some content creators will lie. Some content creators will grift and be like, "Oh yeah, Star Wars was always morally gray. Look at Knights of the Old Republic 2." And then they'll show a picture of Kreia. And it's like, you do realize that character is actually evil and is actually the main antagonist. It's like, did you even play the game? Did you even
No,
play
I
it?
didn't.
Knights of the Old Republic 2 isn't morally gray. It sets up that this character is kind of anti, good guy, and it's then revealed, why are they that way? Well, as it turns out, they're a bad guy. As it turns out, big surprise. Why were they so?
My favorite ones are the YouTube videos where the guy actually hasn't played the game and admits that halfway through.
Oh my God,
I
yes.
watched my friend play it on Discord and it didn't look very good. I'm
So
gonna give it a negative review.
I'm gonna make this autistic at length video about this game using footage that is not even my own gameplay footage. Yes, that is a problem. It's like, all right, man, like, I get that you're passionate, you want to talk about it, but it feels more like a grift. Like, maybe, hear me out, just maybe play it, right? Like, for example, I always wanted to play Fallout 1 and 2. I could never get past the beginning sections as a little kid because I didn't understand it. I was like, stupid giant ants in Fallout 2 and stupid giant friggin' scorpions in Fallout 1. Like, I could just get mauled. And I didn't know how to build characters. I just didn't understand the systems. I also didn't have a manual. So that probably would have helped. But yeah, so like, just didn't know what like a lot of things meant, right? Got older, finally figured it out, beat the game, realized that it was okay, but it wasn't like super my kind of game. But I did like the story, right? I thought the story was actually really cool. I thought the atmosphere was fucking really good. And I think the art direction for Fallout, the original Fallouts, is actually superior than anything Bethesda has put out for Fallout. Like by miles. And that might just be my love for the 2D dimensions and that old, like, pixely look, but there's something about it that has much more charm than a high fidelity 3D model. But yeah.
Oh, you don't like Oblivion with guns?
Yeah, I don't, because it just feels tacky. It's like it's not, and that's the other thing, right? Like, for example, when content creators are upset about games, some people like to be faithful. Never underestimate that if you're making a game. A great example would be, in case of Tim Kaine, so he'd probably understand it more than anyone else, right? Fallout. If you're an avid Fallout fan, you're gonna want Fallout to be faithful. So if it's called Fallout 1, that establishes what the game's gonna be like. Fallout 2 is gonna build on that foundation. Fallout 3 should be iterating on top of the foundation set by Fallout 1 and 2. In the same vein that Halo 3 innovates and iterates on top of that. In the same vein that Gears of War to Gears of War 3 does the same thing. To Command & Conquer to Red Alert 3. They're building on top of the same system. Some things might not be, exactly where you want them to be, but they're iterative and they're staying faithful. The times where it wouldn't be would be like an example of like, I'm making a turn-based tactical role-playing game. Now it's first person and it's, not turn-based and it's not tactical and it's barely an RPG. You can see why people are mad, right? The great example, Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 1 is a light action RPG. It's got RPG stuff, and there's a lot of RPG elements, but it's more of an action game, right? Mass Effect 2 is... some of the RPG elements just, fell off along the transition period, but it's a better action game, so, it's lost some things on the transition. Mass Effect 3... the RPG stuff just fell off completely, and now it's just solely an action game. And so it's an action game with just narrative decision and window dressing and levels with like a window dressing stuff. But you look at Mass Effect 1, and these are two radically different games because it evolved that differently throughout its design. And the issue is that it's important when people are being vocal about negativity towards things, that things are faithful. That's why, for example, Halo died, right? Halo died because Master Chief's story simply ended. And they couldn't build on top of it because they didn't know how. They didn't know where to go with it. I mean, and if you don't know where to take it, what do? You end the story. But corporations don't like that. Corporations want to ride on the success of once great titles. Corporations want to ride on the success of what Timothy made. Timothy made something truly special. Truly. Genuinely. It is special. It has a place, and it will always have a place in gaming. From the time it was created to the ends of time itself. It is an important piece of art, and will always be. Always. And the issue that I think a lot of people have is that nobody seems to put faith, or not faith, but nobody seems to respect that. At least when it comes to the creative side. It feels like when people who are inheriting the mantle of Fallout, like, the Fallout TV show, it just sort of spats upon the legacy of what was. And
the Fallout TV show is not a good example.
I know, but it is an example. No, it is a good example. Because Fallout 3 does the exact same thing. So does Fallout 4. So does Fallout Shelter. They're just kind of corporate schlock. And it's not like about a political thing. It's fundamentally, it doesn't understand what is the message of Fallout. What is the core message of Fallout? War never changes. What is Fallout about? It is about the nature of man. And that's the core theme. What is Fallout 3's message? What is the heart of Fallout 3? Where my dad go? Where my dad go? What's Fallout 4? Where my son go? Where my son... What does that have to do with anything? It's just fundamentally
I was going to say the Fallout TV show is not a good example because that was created purely to destroy the original Fallouts.
Yes, it was intentional, but again, I don't think Timothy would probably even understand that. Because there is a resentment in Bethesda towards the original Fallouts. And they resent the original Fallouts because they don't like that Fallout 1 and 2 is about progression. It's about mankind and the cycle of man and man progressing. Civilization rebuilding itself from the ashes. It's not about my quirky, wacky wasteland town. Okay? Like, it was about a story and a world changing than in the world after the bombs fell in 2077, right? And so that's why Fallout 2 is different. That's why New Vegas is different. Like, narratively, it's like about nations fighting each other because there's more complexity. The world has evolved and changed. Bethesda wants it to remain basically retarded to a specific point in time. They want to retard the process so that it's stuck in a certain era, so that it doesn't progress. It stays in the bombs just fell and everything's like wasted. There's no
People are
sense of
busy
progression.
digging up old food from the Quickie Mart that's been there for 200 years.
It would have been
or the-
looted and picked clean ages ago. There wouldn't be anything in the Quickie Mart anymore.
People also wouldn't just be living in trash.
Yes, people usually, now there are cases where the slums, right? But even people who live in bad areas, they generally try to make the most with what they have, right? Does that mean that's always going to be the case? No, but they're going to try. They're genuinely going to try. Now, we should let Timothy speak. Anyone got any further points? And then we'll hear his next point, because he's got some very interesting stuff to say.
Now let him continue.
All right, let's play.
Stream. We thought about cinematics, we thought about end bosses, we thought about unusual weapons you could get. And because of that, we wanted it to look really good in video. And that was one reason, like, particle effects became a big thing, because you just didn't want it to go boom. You wanted a big explosion and wanted it to be pretty and colorful and all these things, especially in a clip, because people will see that on some channel where someone's talking about the game and they see that clip and now they really want to play the game. So now you're thinking about your game the way we used to think about interviews. When you went into an interview, you're like, okay, I got to have some sound bites ready so that, you know, when when I get quoted, I want to make sure the sound bite's quoted. Now it's like, what part of our game would make good clips for influencers to show? And now we're in the 2020s, and many gamers don't even look to influencers for reviews. They look to influencers to be told how to think about the games. So people don't form opinions from the online video. They're handed an opinion from the online channel they're watching. What this means is I've seen reviews go from, this game has less combat and more puzzles and dialogues for you to interact with than this other game, to, this game is stupid and slow paced and made for casuals. I think you should skip it. That's a huge difference in how games are presented. But more people are going for that latter. They're like, I don't have time. There's too many games. Just tell me whether I should buy it. Tell me if it's for me. So they find someone they just like, and then that person's opinion becomes their opinion. This has a positive side. It's easy to find someone who sides with your preferences and therefore is a good guide for you finding new games. And I've talked about that. That's how I look for game reviewers myself. I look at their reviews for games I already know. If they like the ones I liked and didn't like the ones I didn't like, then I will trust them going forward on reviews of games that I haven't played yet. But the negative to this is more and more people seem to be abdicating their own judgment to that of people they see online. It's like, I don't want to think about it. You tell me what I should think about it. And I see that sometimes on this channel when I get multiple nearly identical comments from people. And I realize they're just quoting an online influencer. Sometimes it's a meme, but more often it's, oh, this influencer person said this thing about this and that.
So, what do you guys think about what he just said there when it comes
I
to...
think he's spot on.
Yeah, because I don't
You
think
see that
he's...
in large parts.
I don't think he's wrong at all here when it comes to this. I think more or less he's pretty on point. I think that when it comes to a lot of his things, I saw a lot of people trying to, like, I don't know, they weren't necessarily like, oh, he's crapping on fucking content creators, but like praising like what do you call it, games journals. But like, and I don't really see that here. And I also see the valid criticism because he's not wrong. The issue is that a lot of people will just regurgitate what they hear. Like, Team of D-Lord says, Sam Jackson smell bad. He's stinky boy now. And then they'll just roll with that. And then somebody else like, Sam Jackson smell bad, lol. And then that becomes the entire conversation.
He's
Yeah, it's like
stinky.
A great example of
He
this
must
would
be
be
stinky.
Helldivers 2, right? Helldivers 2 is kind of what I would call a poisoned game now. Mostly because content creators and people now will just be upset no matter what. And no matter what the developers do, they'll be upset. And the developers have made mistakes too. So it's not like there's not a valid, reason for them to be upset. But at the same time, you have a poison situation in which the developer, is talking and trying to communicate with the players, but then you have people going like, it doesn't matter. They shouldn't even bother. They should just give up. And it's like, okay, well then, all right, that's the end of the discourse, and now the game is dead, right? The one thing that we have to remember is that video games, we only get one in our lifetime, right? Or not one in our lifetime, but we only get like one experience with this game in our life, if that makes sense. And so when it comes to holy schmackerlers, I gotta complete my thought. I lose my train of thought. We only get one Halo. You know what I'm saying? And that Halo is gonna be there, and then it's gonna be gone. And that era and that atmosphere and everything that thing had, it's good and it's bad, will be gone, and we'll never get that back. We got the same with World of Warcraft. We got the same with so many other games. So that's why I do think that you should enjoy things and not let content creators, make it so that you just refuse to try something because, you can't have fun with something, right? It may be flawed. It may have issues. But this is why I think that it's important that there be a dialogue and a conversation. This is why I think that instead of just shutting down on people, right, or just regurgitating talking points, try to ask yourself, what do I like about this game? What do I think would be an improvement to this game? What's the biggest thing holding this game back from being great? Let's have a conversation about that. Let's have a discussion about that. Because if we talk about things as game developers and as players, we can help make better games. At the end of the day, I think players and developers want the same thing. We both want the game to be awesome. And the developers want to reach that point. But sometimes developers need a little bit of help. They need a little bit of feedback. And other times, it's important to let the developers cook an idea, right? Let it develop too. Because sometimes people will step on something when they just hear it without letting it breathe. People will judge books by their cover. And it's not your fault. It is just human nature, right? I do it too, and I catch myself doing it. When I'm in the store and I'm buying something, or well, not anymore, I don't do this, but when I was in the store buying those old video games, right, I would judge based on the cover of the game, whether I would even bother to pick it up and turn it over to look at the back of it. And if I didn't like what I saw on the front, I kept looking. I just judged it. And that was one example of game I did this with, by the way, was actually a game called Nier Gestalt. A game you all know I really like. Granted, I don't like the gameplay, but I really love the story and the music. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really worth it playing, and it's a good experience to have. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised. I thought you'd be into Gimp Daddy Nier.
No, as a kid, when I saw that in the store, I looked at that and was like, that looks weird. I feel uncomfortable looking at that. I'm going to look at a different game. And I just skipped over it and never thought another thing about it. It wasn't till later when I met a guy by the name of Little Bubbles, where Bubbles convinced me to play the game. Because before then, I looked at the cover and I made my judgment, and my judgment was negativity. It wasn't until I made a friend who had a different opinion, who was like, you should try this game and quit being a baby about it. And then I did. And I actually enjoyed it. Much to my annoyance in the beginning. If you ever see my original stream, where you could tell I really don't want to play. But I actually really enjoyed the experience, and I'm grateful that I actually did play it. And it changed my view set on games I had previously misjudged. To basically, I'm like, I actually want to try these games again. And like some of those games where I'm like, I just sort of like looked at it and was like, no, and then put it away. Now I've actually tried them and given them a shot. Sometimes, in most cases, I think my judgment initially was pretty sound. But there are the odd cases, much like Nier Gestalt, where that does happen. And you know what's interesting about that? It opens new doors. And that's the biggest and most important thing. And that's why I think it's important to have a conversation about. Well, go ahead.
There's plenty of games with good cover art that do just suck. if you look at like the modern fucking Call of Duty, they have good cover art. The games are fucking terrible though.
I don't even know if I like the cover art, to be honest with you. I'm
Have
not
you
a
looked
big
at the
fan of it.
World War II one? I like the World War II one, and
I don't,
that game sucks.
I,
So.
I don't like it. I'll be real with it. I don't like it. Like, if you look at the old Call of Duty cover art, where the guy's like pointing at the player and going like, ah, as he's like pointing off at a tank coming over the hill, that I think was peak. Mostly because not only is there a guy like screaming and pointing like, ah, fucking tank, and what's cool about that is that he's pointing at you as if he's like you. And I remember being a kid and seeing the boxes, and like the little boxes, and any box that did that, it made me like get goosebumps as a little kid, because I was like, oh my god, it's like the game understands me. It's like the people who made this for me. And what's funny is they did. Yeah, I know it's funny because it's soy pointing at the war. But yeah, there's the Call of Duty boxes that do that for the OG COD games, where they're soy jacking at the fucking tank. It's a bunch of guys soy jacking with World War II helmets pointing at a tank, and it's unironically the best thing ever. I hate it. Oh, but it's actually canon.
So now I realize that little kid was a soy jack. That's good enough.
Ooh.
Good to know. Get an piece of that.
We need a button I can press so I can soy jack with my model and be like, ooh.
That's an excellent idea.
Soy pointing. But as a kid, I thought it was super cool. Because you guys know... Okay, you know what? Fine. We're going to talk about it. I need to bring it up before we
Grab the
continue.
World War II one so I can prove you wrong.
It's
'Cause
not.
I'm right and you're wrong. You're wrong, gay.
That's bad. You're wrong. You should commit kibocide.
Kibbles.
Old COD covers. Please tell me that's like an HD. Oh my god, they are just soy jacking. All right, they are just. The first two CODs do that. Look at that one right there. Look, oh, screaming, pointing at you, and this guy's like, "Oh my god, beach!"
They're great.
War.
And that guy, I don't know what this guy's doing. He's like, he's like, it's kind of derpy.
Yeah, look.
This was
World
kind
War
of. This
II.
one's.
I like that one. I like the look in that guy's eye.
I think these were the best designs they had here.
No, yeah, like
Little soldier
Modern
man.
Warfare Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was actually the best in the series, but yeah.
And World at War is pretty top notch. Come on, good box.
It was the first zombies mode, and it's the best zombies
I would say the
mode.
best soy pointing one is probably the OG COD one, because it did look pretty cool when you first saw it, though.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the second one, but that's just me.
But yeah,
That's
I think
where,
we're getting off topic a bit.
I know
But
you
this is
had
a
to
podcast.
show that.
So
I'm
let
sorry,
us.
those original covers are great.
Trumpa, do you have any further points? You little Trumpachoo. He's like, he's dead.
No, but one thing I'm saying about his point about content creators and just the whole people just go to them for their opinions. One thing I've noticed over the years, can't believe I'm saying that I'm 31, but that
You old
aside,
bastard.
a lot of these content creators, and by extension of their communities, there is no healthy back and forth. It's okay, we're looking at the exact same examples or evidence or whatever it is, and we're just having different takes and pushback on it. It's just echo chambers. There's very little healthy pushback, and I noticed it's become the exact same, in a way, even worse than it was during the magazine age, which that's
It's
what I'm
not-
going to call it.
It's not just a circle jerk, it's also a cult of personality behind it.
Yeah.
So if you disagree with that with the agreed upon opinion, you are now disagreeing with the community, you know?
Yep, and
A lot of
also
it's
you
just
don't
human
like
nature.
him because you have a disagreement. Because, for example, I don't want to quote, I don't want to name the YouTubers for fucking drama crap, but there was one YouTuber who would be like, "That's the fucking stupidest." I'm quoting him, by the way. That you're so fucking stupid. That's the stupidest opinion. You should get the fuck out of here. You're so fucking stupid. It's like, and then he bans them. It's like, well, there you go. Like, there is an example of like, yeah, there is, sometimes, and it is the content creator's fault if that's the case. That's the reality. If you're like, example, Ponza, you're so fucking stupid. You're the stupidest person ever. You're so stupid.
Used car salesman bullshit.
Like, you're so dumb, ban. Then, like, get out of here with that garbage. Get out of here with that trash opinion. Stupidest fucking thing I ever heard. Stupid.
Yeah.
You know who I'm quoting when I do that.
I know exactly who you're referring
But
to.
don't
and
say the name. But yeah.
Travis should know already as well. He was a headline.
Don't
for
say
a
anything. Don't say
couple
it.
months.
The hat I'm wearing is inconvenient for this.
Yes,
Your
it is
first two
tinfoil hat. Don't you can't read my
Become
thoughts.
return to pickle kid.
Return to pickle Gib. Jack can always pay to change them all. Also, because I didn't actually do this, because I got sidetracked on a topic to not lose my point, Lord of Opossum donated a very generous $200. Thank you very much. And he said, for the brake pads. That was incredibly generous. Yes, I did have to replace my brake pads today. It was very annoying and expensive. And that helps out tremendously. So thank you very much. I took a picture of one of the brake pads just so you guys could see how bad it was. You know what? Just to show it on stream, because it was pretty bad. If you're wondering why my car was making... I was complaining about making terrible noises. I'll show you, and you're probably going to be like, that explains everything, really. So there. That is how my brake pad looked. And that was probably the one causing the noise. You can see that the pad is basically gone. On the top part of
What
it.
pad?
Exactly.
I only see a metal piece.
It's like almost like perfectly sheened and like clear here. So yeah, it was pretty bad. But guess what? We changed it, and my car doesn't make that god awful noise no more. And I don't have to worry about like flying through a stoplight when I slam on the brakes.
I think you're still worried about it.
But yeah, that was kind of it was really nice of my old man to help me with that. My dad helped me with that because he's a mechanic. I am mechanically retarded. I only know video game things. But yeah,
What button?
it's appreciated a lot. Very generous. No, I know the paints is possible. Just drop a couple grand fixing my car. Yeah, I'm terrified because I'm gonna need to decide whether I want to keep this car and keep limping it along, or like, do I want to sell it now because it's a Minnesota car. So if you don't think about Minnesota vehicles, after enough years, because that car's from 2004, eventually the underside, it's going to start showing. And what I mean by showing is it's going to show from all those years of salt, from the salted roads. And what if you've ever seen a car from the north, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You see,
I know exactly
rust
what you're
eating
talking
away
about.
from the bottom, going upwards, and that is going to start happening. And once that happens, the value of that car is going to diminish greatly. So I need to consider selling. But yeah, northern lower aside.
If worst comes to worst, kids, you can scrap it for like $1,000.
Yeah, well, that goes towards a new car, I suppose. It goes towards a
We'll call it the Kidmobile.
Kidmobile. It's got a putt too when it does it.
It'll be a like 1980s Beetle.
Good. So it'll break down even more.
Yes.
And have like very rare parts or something. Yes, wonderful.
In which case, it'll scrap for more. Ooh.
Well, usually people don't want to scrap those. Usually people want to restore those. Usually. Collectors.
Usually.
All right, so let's let Timothy speak if nobody has any further things. But yeah, what he says here really interesting. I do recommend watching the video. Again, I'm going to shill his stuff here because it is an interesting conversation. And again, I disagree with him on some things, but this guy's actually pretty smart. This is the guy, for those who are just coming here because I didn't sell out no Chatfishes, this is Timothy Kane, one of the original creators and architects of the OG Fallouts. So he's been around for a long time. He's worked on games. He's worked on games that I don't think are particularly good. Actually, you know what, Fuzzy? Can you quickly check what he's worked on recently? I think he was actually invited to work on a modern game. I don't think it was a good one, though. I think it was bad. But this is why I think his opinion might be colored, because he might be talking to younger developers who might be giving him a skewed view, potentially. That would explain some thoughts here, actually. Has he worked on anything lately, Fuzzy?
I'm looking up now. Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds 2 as a creative consultant.
Hmm.
Oh no,
That might
He did
explain
a
some of
lot.
the
He
view
did a lot
sets.
of work for. He did a lot. It looks like he did a lot of work over the years for a lot of oh my god, Obsidian's games.
Yep. Obsidian. I believe Timothy Kane doesn't. What's his origin? What studio did he hail from? One of the greats. Was it Black Isle? No, I don't think so. No.
Black Isle made Oro.
That would be really interesting if it was.
Yes. Grand Slam Bridge in 1986. Interplay. First studio job. Oh, he was an old Interplay.
Nope. Well, he's not from like Interplay Corp. Interplay, for those who don't remember, Interplay was EA and Sega really kind of before they were like as big as they were. Interplay was huge. And a lot of people have rose-tinted glasses when it comes to Interplay, but there was a lot of controversies and dramas behind the scene. I remember speaking to somebody from Interplay. Long
Here's an old
time
article.
ago. What?
An old interview from 2011 about Unmasking the Gamer, industry veteran programmer.
Gamer.
Granted, the person I spoke to was not there in the inception, by the way. He was much there after everything had fallen apart. Because last time I saw any Interplay stuff, I actually saw the dude who was actually trying to sell the IPs, who's just sitting there by himself. He's like, "Yep, we want to buy into the IPs. You want to buy it?" But they would only sell them in bulk. I was curious because I actually was asking, if you could buy them individually. Because I was curious, what if you could buy Sacrifice? No, you couldn't. They were only willing to sell them in bulk, just to be done with them. But yeah, that was actually
What's the Sacrifice being sold for?
2016. Oh, it was well out of my price range. It was like in the thousands, and I didn't have that kind of money. Hey kid, want to buy some IPs? Yeah, he was just chilling on Facebook. It was kind of weird. It was curious. Like Bubbles and I actually spoke to him. I remember.
Did anyone actually end up buying the IPs? Or was it
Maybe
just out of
eventually.
nowhere?
I don't know. I don't know.
It seems
He
extremely sketchy.
He might still
does,
be on
actually.
Facebook. No, it's the
Yeah,
official company account. But was. It's not sketchy. But the thing is, if you wanted to like discuss like IPs things, you'd have to like present serious things because they weren't interested in having like a super idle conversation about. I thought it was interesting though, the whole thing.
Okay, I posted some of Tim Kane's old work, and a lot of his first games, I'm honestly have no idea what they are. He worked on Star Trek Starfleet Academy, Fallout 1 and 2, Arcanum. He actually worked on Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines as a programmer. Not exactly a good look. South Park Stick, and then after Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline, there's a 10-year gap, and then for the last 12 years, he's been with Obsidian. With his latest one, Outer Worlds 2, as a creative consultant. Not exactly the best track record.
Well,
There
I
are
mean,
some
so the big thing is that his current track record isn't particularly good.
Yes.
His previous track record, though, in older games is much
Yes.
better. But I will point out that that track. Okay, so Vampire the Bloodlines Masquerade had a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there. When it came to like stuff, it wasn't necessarily the development team's fault.
Very rash.
Yeah. And the other thing is that there were other things. But yeah, so like
Among other things.
when it comes to Obsidian, he's not in a position of particular big power. He's more like a consultant from the sounds of it. But this also might explain his view set because he's talking to these guys, and he's probably talking to these guys. And so, with the way when I close my eyes is I always imagine things in spheres. And I know what you're going to say, Chatfish, spheres, here we go, right? But Timothy Kane's sphere of people that he talks to lean in that particular crowd, the Obsidian crowd of current year. And all those people are going to say things from that sphere's perspective. So hence why he has this disconnected opinion when it comes to talking about some of the YouTuber stuff. Now, he's not wrong. Again, he's not wrong. But he is making mistakes when it comes to certain things when talking about, like, alluding to like, oh, journalists, they were more objective, or they were more objective. Not that they were more objective, but it was more objective and straight to the point. Versus content creators will be like, bada bada bada, gay game. No.
To be fair, in certain references that has occurred to
That
obscene
has.
games, in which case, like, people shout on Avowed not because it's a bad game, but more so because it's gay and woke.
Yes, Avowed is one of those cases, and Avowed's also
Even though wasn't
so
anything.
talking about Avowed objectively. It's not. I don't remember being too like woke, but I remember
it isn't actually.
yeah, because
It's
we
the
played
problem.
Avowed. Avowed isn't necessarily woke. It's not even necessarily like it's the worst thing ever. It's just incredibly mediocre.
Yeah,
Like
that's the
it.
actual problem with it.
I would classify it as my most disappointing game of that year, because I was really looking forward to that for a long time. I liked Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2, and when I saw that initial trailer for it, I started watching. And then I started seeing warning signs, and then we got the game, and I saw, well, disappointing, just very disappointing, where it's not the worst thing ever, but I was expecting and hoping for much, much more.
Because the key thing about what makes or breaks a game is the game fun or is it not? And the answer when playing Avowed, because I actually played the game for a couple hours, it was entertaining, but it wasn't particularly fun. Nor did it feel particularly well made. Because again, the developers wanted it to be kind of like Borderlands with like multiplayer co-op where you go together and like, slaughter monsters and stuff together with friends. But they didn't have that. And so instead it's just you and NPC companions. And the issue is that it feels like I'm playing Borderlands single player. It felt
A
not
lot
good.
of fun.
It's like,
Yeah,
this is kind of like sloggy and boring, except the only people to talk to is myself and my AI companions. And my AI companions, while they did hire some prominent voice actors and actresses, the issue is that the writing for the setting wasn't particularly good either. The writing quality was just kind of painfully dry, is what I would say.
it was not nearly as good as their previous games. Like, from the technical aspects,
Oh.
they switched from Unity to Unreal Engine 5, did not help. Scope creep, they were working on a lot of other projects at the time, as, keep in mind, around this time they had Outer Worlds, a lot of their other Grounded, a lot of their other big projects they were working under Microsoft, stretching their resources thin, and so many things went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing from a mechanical standpoint, they tried to translate the CRPG rules from Pillars into what is
A first-person RPG.
your first-person RPG. That didn't work at all. It just did not work.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that it didn't work. They just didn't do enough to actually make it work.
As it's right now, it doesn't work. Because again, the implementation is bad. It's just pure fact. Could I have made it work? Yes. Maybe just do an entirely different system altogether, but it just wasn't fun.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
it's just how it is.
Okay, let's see what other points he has. Most of the points of interest are sort of here, by the way, in the middle, because the beginning is sort of building up his reputation. Again, it's a good video. I do recommend listening to it. If you're a developer, or even if you're not even a developer, but you're interested in video games, his channel's pretty worth listening to. It's got some interesting
It
points.
is important still to understand his background, as you need to understand the perspective he's coming from when he makes his points. That is
Yep, that's
one
why
thing
I
that's always
think
important for
I
context.
think he's absolutely spot on with like the content creator stuff. I think he's a little bit off is when it's sort of sounding like, okay, well, yeah, there are these negative things, but also it's a bit more complicated than going like, my content creator is the reason, like they're just like why people don't use their brains. The reality is that people will, how do I put this? There's no way to put this in a nice way, but the sad and annoying thing I'm going to have to say, it's going to sound a little mean, but some people, and this is just how they are, they choose to be this way. They can choose to stop at any time. They choose to just regurgitate whatever they hear, whether it was before the age of content creators or after. But this has been a common thing. That's why I mentioned I know some people who only believe stuff on the television. It doesn't matter if it's true or if it's disproven later, unless the television says otherwise, That's what the world works. The television said so. You don't understand. TV knows. You know, it's like, okay,
A
like,
large part, yeah, a large part of that is just human nature. It's like there's always going to be a certain amount of followers who will just follow whoever their
sheeps.
perceived
Yeah.
sheeps. I was trying to be nicer, but yeah,
I mean,
there are going to be
it's what
sheeps
Well,
where
they
it's
they're going to
are.
follow their
yeah.
who their perceived destined shepherds are going to be, and there's just almost nothing you can do to break them out of that habit.
Yep. Because the reality is that some people just don't have like it's a multi-tiered thing, right? Some people are sheep and they just follow along. And you know what? As long as they ain't hurt nobody, whatever, right? But they should try to think for themselves if they can. You should, and that's to everybody in chat. You should always try to think like, okay, how do you feel about it? Like, do you feel the same way, or do you, have a different opinion? Maybe you like Avowed. Maybe you think it's a lot better, and maybe you think it's getting ragged on a bit too much. Maybe you hate it. Regardless, having a discussion and a dialogue about it is important because there is a lesson to be learned in every game. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, it doesn't matter. There's something to be learned in everything, no matter what it is, right? And so there should be a discussion. But the other thing is that there's another layer besides like people who just sort of blindly follow. The layer above that is people who don't have time, right? For example, there is somebody in our audience who's got like a family and some kids, and he's got a lot of stuff going on in his life, and he can't be everywhere and do everything. He can't research all these games and stuff because he just doesn't have time to. He's got maybe like an hour of free time to play a game to get it in for sleepy time because he's got to go to work, got to take care of kids. He's got a busy life, right? Lots of stuff going on. And so that's why he probably is going to be, okay, well, let's see what this guy says. If he says something about this, maybe he's just going to be like, all right, that's what, I'm just going to roll with it. I don't have time to invest into this more than that. And sadly, that's just the nature. Some people don't have time. It's regrettable, but, it just is what it is. So if Yub Nub Man says good or bad, they're going to have to just roll with it and their gut feelings. And that's just how it's going to be. They just don't have a lot of spare time. Spare time is a luxury. Some people have it, some people don't, right? And then there's the next tier above that, right? After you leave spare time, or basically people who are hard pressed for time or sheeps, then you got, your, what do you call them? Like your more free thinking individual person, where they're going to weigh the decisions, but they already kind of lean towards you, right? Generally, my audience leans towards me, though for various reasons. Some of you just like my banter and my commentary. Some of you like my opinions on things. Some of you just think I'm a funny little guy. Whatever the reason, more power to you, right? But the big thing there to take away from that is that you guys usually at that stage have like a different view set. Like, if I don't like something, you're going to look at it and be like, meh, I don't care. Or, actually, I kind of like that thing that you don't like. But at the same time, it depends on each content creator's group, right? With our chatfishes, you guys have a lot of independence. We give you guys a lot of rights. Maybe we should take those away. No, I'm kidding.
We should.
You're allowed to like whatever you want, right? You can do whatever the hell you want, right? That's always been the case. But like some content creators communities are a bit different. We're not gonna name names because you guys always do that. Because we're just gonna say if you don't like if you don't agree with the content creator, like they'll run you through the mud, or people like lambast you, or they'll dogpile you, or whatever. Shit like that does happen, and some content creators enable that. But the issue is that you can't operate with the generalization because, again, Yub Numbers, like I said before, are complicated. There are different tiers of it. Some of us are reviewers. Some of us are satirical reviewers. Some of us are just playing the game and giving our thoughts about it. I fall in that category. Some people just play the game for a background thing, just to mess around, and they just play it. And they just want to stream their gameplay. And they're not even in it to be like a big content creator. They're just a hobby. They do streaming as a hobby, right? I'm a full-time career streamer, so I play stuff to entertain you guys and also, give my opinions on things at the end. Bear in mind that whether I like something or doesn't is irrelevant. If I don't like it, it doesn't matter. If I like it, that still doesn't matter because that's not what my content's tailored to. A reviewer might be a bit different in that case, but again, reviewers, usually you're going to know what you're getting into, right? If you're watching a certain reviewer who just screams all the time, then you're just there for the entertainment value of the screaming, right? Or if you like the fact that this reviewer, goes into great detail and focuses on a genre set of games that you like a lot, like maybe some lady who covers scary games, and you really like her content and how she covers scary games, so you just want to watch her, or you want to watch that guy that covers them strategy games, because you really like his opinions on strategy games. And usually the bad or the rot, so to speak, will fall through the cracks. Now, there is the case of grifters. This is the part where we talked about earlier, where there are some content creators, and this is true, that are what we call political content creators. And they are kind of vultures and kind of parasiting, right? So what is the issue with them? Why is that an issue? Usually it's because they don't give a damn about the game, nor video gaming as a whole, and they're only here to grift and basically climb up onto a box and, scream, vote for blank, or this supports my ideology, blah, 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 right? Some games, might have a persuasion or whatever, but they don't really give a damn about the game. They never did. They don't care about video games, and they're not here for video games, and they're here to just grift, and that's all they're here for. These people exist on both sides of the fences, and above the fence or wherever. They sit on the fence too. They're everywhere. They're just grifters. They'll go wherever they go. They're just part of nature, I guess. Like vultures or parasites, they exist. You got to live with them. You got to live with them. You don't like them, but you got to live with them.
They're like parasites. They just happen to be everywhere.
It's just like, but yeah. So like, regardless, right? These people just exist, but you can usually tell what they are or who they are by their actions, because usually they're going to, the mask is gonna slip, because you can only pretend to be somebody you're not for so long before that mask is gonna fall off, and people are gonna see you for who you really are, right? And this always happens. I've been on YouTube from like a very long time. I technically started officially my channel in 2016, but I've been dabbling with it in 2013, right? I've been around for a while. And so, like, it's one of those cases where these people will disappear. They usually last half a decade, maybe 5 years tops, and then they'll disappear. Or then the mask will fall off, and then that's the end of it. And a new one will come in their place, and they'll spread all sorts of bull crap, or they'll try to politicize a game, or they'll exacerbate something, And developers do bad stuff too. Developers aren't immune either, right? It's not, only content creators. It's everybody is human. Every side makes mistakes. The player fucks up. The developer also fucks up. The content creator also fucks up. The games journalists fuck up. Everybody in all these groups, there's always somebody fucking up. Somewhere. Like in the case of a developer might fuck up by, doing a deal with Sweet Baby Inc. and putting political things in the game, which breaks the immersion of the game. And if you can't see the issue with that, there's a real genuine reason why people don't like that. When I play video games, I don't play them to see contemporary politics. I don't care. I don't care whether you vote left or right. I really don't care. It's none of my business what your politics are. And my politics are really not anybody else's business either. Like, it doesn't matter.
If you're not with me,
then you're against me. Yeah, that's the mentality, right? Oh my god. If you're not with me, then you're against me. And this sort of like tribalistic thinking is just like I get it, right? We all have our friend groups, our own little cliques and stuff, but like, come on. There comes a point in which it's obvious you're just grifting. Like you're not here to play the video games, you're not here to talk about the video games. You don't even care about video games. You're here to talk about your political opinions and pretend you're smarter than everybody else. That's what you're trying to do. That's what it always is. It's always the same. It's always the same. But yeah, one of those things. People don't like that. People don't like being lied to. It's why I think Timothy Kane, when he talks about 2010s being the turning point for like when he noticed YouTubers becoming more prevalent, that's also, again, to reiterate my point from earlier, was because gaming news media, its corruption had finally bubbled to the surface. Game developers and their overpromises and lies, and again, it's not just game developers. Publishers were at fault. The journalists were at fault. some of the game developers were at fault. It's not like we can just point one group was at fault. It was a series of cascading failures that were connected, and it was connected because everybody in the industry talks and works with each other. Hence why when it happened with Creative Assembly's Rome 2, it happened with Mass Effect Andromeda. When it happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, it happens with EA Star Wars Battlefront. When it happens with EA Star Wars Battlefront, it happens with Dead Space 3. You know, and it wasn't one game. It was like every game almost. It happened with Halo. It happened with Killzone. It happened with like every fucking major brand. And the 2010s was like the beginning of like what was effectively a dark depression in gaming. It was. There were good games that came out. There were good games that came out in the AAA. There were good games that came out in the AA. There were good indie games. Fan-fucking-tastic indie games that came out in that period of time. But there was a lot of big established things that we all liked that were ruined because people were making them. Not because they wanted to make the games, not because they wanted to make good quality games to improve gaming, but because they wanted to climb up on top of the thing that was popular, look down at you and say you're stupid. And that's basically what they did. And they used the like Master Chief as a little puppet to do it for them. Just to make it like to rub it into being an insult. Look, your hero doesn't like you either. Is basically what they were doing. It was childish. And that's why when you see organizations like these meddlesome third-party organizations like Sweet Baby Inc. and stuff like that, where yeah, you get a lot of investor money and stuff if you sign on with these guys, but they're snakes. They're venomous little bastards because they're not here to help your studio. They're not here to help you make a better game. They're here to push an agenda. And that's the issue. Game makers should not be pushing agendas for any party. You should just be making games. If you want to have like a philosophy and an idea in the game, it should come from you, your heart. You wanted to write that. Not because somebody wanted to line your pocketbook. Not some third party. It should be done with passion. That's what sets apart older games that tried to make points versus newer games, right? Spec Ops: The Line is an anti-war game. Shell Shock is an anti-war game. I don't entirely agree with some of the messages that they have in those games, but I do think that they have something to say, even if it is flawed. And it's interesting to hear what they have to say, even if you necessarily may not agree with everything they have to say. It's still interesting to hear. There are still interesting thoughts to be heard and listened to. And maybe you can take something away. Or maybe you'll find out, why you believe the way you do. It's good to be challenged, because being challenged on some things allows you to grow yourself. And that's why I think it's important for game makers to make games they want to make. This is what I think he's also itching at, and I think he's absolutely spot on. That's why I actually really like this video, because he's talking about, like, putting things in categories and labeling things and trying to make games for YouTubers and trying to make it like it sort of appeals to, like, this guy so he likes it when he talks about it in his video. That is a problem. That is a friggin' huge problem. It's the exact problem we have right now. It's the reason why the 2010s happened the way they did. Because instead of making good games, they were kind of making them for content creators. But then again, they were also not just doing that for content creators, they were also doing it for the people in like Sweet Baby Inc. or Anita Sarkeesian or these, really bad eggs to make them happy. But they weren't making the game to make themselves happy. And I know that sounds dumb and stupid, but believe you me, when it comes to game making, you should be making what you want to make, not what someone dictates you to make. Anytime you're dictated or mandated to do something and your vision is ruined in that way. Now there is a difference I wanted to note between if it's an established series, you need to follow in the footsteps of that and not change it, right? But if you're building something new, it should be built with love and passion. An example of this would be probably the Dead Space franchise, right? Dead Space 3. Dead Space 3, Visceral Games wanted to continue what they were doing with 2 and basically build on that. However, EA didn't want that. EA didn't like that. EA wanted more money, and they wanted to get more people to buy the game. And so they started meddling with the developer and mandating them to do these certain things, which ruined their vision, and that's why Dead Space 3 is it's a weird game. It's not terrible. It's not a bad game, because Visceral actually did a good job with it. It's just not really a Dead Space game. It is a good game worth playing, in my opinion. That might be controversial, but I think there's elements of Dead Space where you can see love that's still there, because you can tell the devs care, and you'll see this with games over and over again with other games too. But yeah, it is an interesting conversation to have. Any other points you guys want to add before we move on?
No,
Not
I just
really.
got back.
Anything, Squealy?
Um,
Start shaking them upside down. Get that idea out. Get that idea.
I'm just thinking like how I want to phrase it.
I feel like I rant a lot.
You
And
do.
I
You
feel
do.
like you do. Oh no.
Now, a few things while Squilly gets his ideas together, I can go over for chat real quick.
Okay.
So, chat, this is your last week to get on a few things. It's your last week to get on Conflict Global Storm, as well as the Dwarf RTS and MechWarrior 5, which the donor war will be concluded for at the end of the week.
Okay. On Sunday.
Currently, the thumbnail and faction will play is set to be Steiner.
Nice.
Minor.
A good choice, if not a silly choice.
And in unrelated news, my cat is back.
What happened with your cat?
Good to hear.
Had surgery to remove a cancerous lump.
Oh, Kitty okay?
They had to take some of the muscle.
Oh, Kitty's ouchie. Kitty's
Kitty can't walk or do anything on their own, so I just had to hold the cat while they peed all over themselves. So I
Damn.
stepped away.
That's pretty hard to do. Well, I mean, good for you taking care of your kitty. Hopefully Kitty does recover. How long does it take for the muscle to get back? Grow back.
So he's gonna wear a cone for 2 weeks, and then he gets checked again. I'm gonna have to dig into savings to pay for a bit of it as well. About 1,000.
Jeez. Well, hopefully this nips that cancer in the bud for the kitty.
Maybe. We don't know yet if it did reach the bone or not, but we're not taking his leg.
Yeah.
He's too old to adapt to that.
I agree. Yeah, because the issue is moving a leg so late. Yeah. But yeah. Chatfish, condolences for Chumpa Kitty. Let Chumpa Kitty feel your love. They channel.
Chat, let's start a rapier cat surgery fund.
Oh god. Wait, do you need actual help with that?
No, but my savings are gonna be pretty damn low.
Okay, well remember you
Because
can
I've been
message
having
me
to
if you
spend
need
lots of
stuff.
expenses.
We can.
No, I'll be okay.
We can do something. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Trevor's looking at me. He's like, Kitty. All right, be strong.
I
little
mean, I
kitty.
want my savings to have at least twice what's in there, Kibbs, but
I mean, me too. Me too. All right. So back to the video.
I can't put a little positive note on this whole thing with the content creators. It does look more and more bright in the future as a lot of game developers I'm noticing are diversifying their communication chains where, yeah, even if they don't abandon the content creators, they're more opening other channels for people outside the content creator sphere to give
Yes.
feedback. And I
a
think
lot
that's
of
gonna be a
games are
very
also
positive
just
thing.
moving purely to just we post on on our Discord.
Now, that's
Yeah.
slightly dangerous because with Discords, okay, so it's down to the developer, right? This is highly individual. The one issue that I see with developers doing that is that moderation teams who are volunteers, and I love my mods to death. I love you guys to death. You guys do great work. But some moderation teams are a little overzealous, is what I'll say.
You
And
need to be selective.
you can't be overzealous with moderation because you need to let other people voice discontent. It is important to have some level of discontent. Now, yes, there is a line in which if they are starting to be rowdy and like basically agitation, then yeah, you got to put your foot down. But if they're voicing concerns about like, hey, I got some concerns about this mechanic or the system, it should be allowed to let that stand. Yeah, I can slap them with a warning if they're like being a little rude, because we all get heated, right? I get heated all the time when I play games. I get angry, I get mad, blame the video game, when in reality it's just me making a mistake. But there's some times in some games where that's not the case, or there's like a bug, or like for example in Helldivers 2, the flesh mob runs through the wall, which used to be a bug that they fixed finally, right? That was a bit annoying, where it's just like behind a wall, and then hello, I'm a monster. I just ran through the wall. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Should I post a picture of the cat?
You can if you want. Share kitty. What's the kitty's
I don't
name?
know. Mooch.
Mooch? Oh my fucking god. You gave it the nickname Mooch or name Mooch.
It was a wild cat.
You want to call him Smoochy?
He is a mooch.
Give him a smooch. Give him a give Mooch a smooch.
Of course, Gibbs goes there.
All cats are technically mooches.
I would have an allergic
There.
reaction if I did that.
It's in discussions, chat.
I shall open it. You better not dox yourself on it.
I don't think there's anything you can see in any reflections.
Oh damn, he's got a little belly right there. Look at him. He's just fucking chowing down. Crunching on some kibbles. Yeah, it looks like a bit of a nasty surgery there.
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna leave a nasty
Well, they did want to
scar.
take the whole leg.
Yup. Look at his little belly. Little pudgy.
Betty.
Very old cat. Who apparently most
can
old
tell
cats
he's an
lose
old
weight,
cat.
He's not.
He's got a little pudge to him, a little bit of a beer belly. Nice little kitty. But yeah. Alright, where were we?
We're calling
Video.
Gibbs pudgy.
Alright. We'll let the remainder of the video play out and then we'll come if there's anything else. I can't remember. I do fully recommend you check out this video. If I wasn't having to repair my car today, I would probably just grab clips, which would have been better. Yeah, the channel's called Timothy Kane. The video is called How the Internet Changed Game Design. I'm probably just gonna copy this real quick. Actually, before we listen to this, I'm gonna go and put it into the description.
Yeah, do a description or a pinned comment.
It'll be in the description for people who want to check it out, who don't want to hear my takes on it, and you want to just hear him for himself.
I want to hear dumb kid.
I'll put it at the very top.
Old man. Old fellow guy.
Yeah, I've watched his content for a good while. Timothy Kane is a really interesting content creator. Or not content creator, but game developer. I mean, he is technically a content creator, actually. By technicality. My God, he's talking about himself.
He's an influencer himself.
He hasn't realized this. I mean, he's got more influence than I do, technically. That's like
There are some
250,000
people,
subscribers.
By the way, in reference to Timothy Kane as well, there are people who will vindicate themselves in liking the Fallout TV show because he likes.
Yeah, I disagree with Timothy Kane entirely. I respect the work he does, and I respect him immensely for the work he has done. And I think he's actually pretty smart. I think he's got some interesting ideas. And you shouldn't dismiss him because he likes the Fallout TV show. Because I have seen people dismiss him entirely because of that. I understand why he likes it. I think he likes it because, you know, he's older now, and he may not have the same view of things that he once did, right? It's not about the authenticity and the faithfulness to him. It's nice that people still have fun with Fallout. This is how he views it. Old man view. Rather than how I view it, where it's like, Fallout TV show spits on the face of pre-existing lore carelessly and insults my intelligence at every conceivable turn. It just makes me angry. It makes me mad. That's why I don't watch it. But I'm not going to grift because I hate grifting. So if you don't like it, just don't watch it. So we're not watching the Fallout TV show. I watched the first season, and I should have quit after the first episode. I had a feeling it was going to go in that direction, and whatever, doesn't matter. Complaints aside. All right, let's listen to the rest of this. One sec.
Now they're just quoting without any attribution in a comment. Sometimes even when it doesn't apply, which just makes me go, are they understanding why the person said that? But other reactions I see happening in the industry because of this trend is designers have become really obsessed with labeling their game. It's not enough to say I have an RPG. Is it an action RPG? Does it have an open world? Is this going to be controversial if I talk about this topic? They really want to know what the labels are on their games. And so do you guys. You guys ask these questions. Does it have this content? You know, is it hub and spoke version of a game? As if I can't think of a game that I hated because it was open world versus hub and spoke. I love both of them, and a well-made game can be done in both of them. But this is what a lot of designers think about now when they're putting a game together. They also wonder how influencers will react. If there's an influencer who really likes a lot of the previous games made by you or made at the company you made, you may be putting in a feature and think, is he going to like this? Is she going to comment about this nicely? It's probably not a healthy way of designing a game, but I've seen people talk about it. It's gone from how should I make this instead of how do I want to make this. And I don't think that's a good way to make games. I'm not doing this, but many people, you know, gamers and developers alike, they want me to. They want me to. When they say, Tim, you've got to listen to us. You and the other devs aren't listening to me. That's not you telling me to make the game I want to make. That's you telling me to make the game you want to make. And that got to a head when I talked about Fallout and whether it's about capitalism, and everybody told me I'm wrong, that it is about capitalism. I'm like, okay, this game it's not what I intended, but you guys want it to be what you want it to be. So it's weird when you then turn around and say, well, go ahead and do what you want, but it's not. It better be what we want. I'm curious.
I think in this case, he's specifically referring to.
He's right, by the
fucking
way.
Redditors, but
He's absolutely right. So I feel so bad for him.
it's about capitalism. It's about capitalism.
It's not really about capitalism because I don't know. I felt like I understood it, but I don't know. Maybe my interpretation's wrong. I thought that Fallout 1 was about the nature of man and the nature of civilization and the nature of conflict and the nature of war. And that was the general core theme of the game, and that capitalism really didn't have anything to do with it. And that it's rather just a tragic state of affairs, and this is humanity rebuilding, but you're already seeing humanity repeating similar mistakes from the past in certain areas. Conflict between the NCR and Caesar's Legion in New Vegas, or conflict between the Brotherhood and, you know, the Master, right? Or the Enclave. And you see all these conflicts with all these factions, and all these guys have different ideologies on how to correct the world. But capitalism evil is kind of just so... It's so childish.
It's the Reddit view, and the Reddit view is a very common one.
He also does make a good point about developers listening to the content creators. I know he says influencers a lot. I'm trying not to say the word influencer. About the developers and that pressure they felt for the longest time, less so today, but for the longest time listening to content creators. You gotta listen to us content creators. We know what the community wants. You gotta listen to us. And what we found out was it was just the same problem we saw before of, actually, no. It's just what you want to make, and you're trying to push people to like this thing you want because you're the content creator, you're the big celebrity, you must be right.
Worship me.
And it's in so many genres, and it's become so exhausting. Gamergate initially happened because of these corruption problems. It manifested differently, but it's a lot of it's the same core. We're seeing this again, and he just touched upon it. It's just frustrating because it leads to, hey, we want more in-depth mechanics in genre in ARPG. We want this mechanic to be more in-depth. We don't like this mechanic. Often you'll see disconnect between the content creator, the paying customer, and what the developer wants. And as we're seeing now and now over the past few years, when it's less content creators and more, hey, let's stream what we're making, and do you like it? What you're often finding is, hey, wait a minute. the content creators, we could actually experiment more, and actually the community actually likes us making these more in-depth mechanics and experimenting like that, and they're actually liking what they're seeing and telling us that. And they're not just using Discord, a lot of it's just simple YouTube streams. Here, let's show you the raw stream. We'll just show you what we're developing. It's going to be raw and everything, but here's our thought process, and we'll discuss it. And what you're saying is, yeah,
specifically in regards to if I could just jump in here regarding the fucking
Go
Discord
ahead.
stuff, right?
Hmm?
Anytime I've ever heard about it, like people referring to like going to Discord to get feedback, I remember that one fucking joke someone made about you gotta be fucking Todd Howard's Discord kitten to tell him Fallout 76 sucks.
Also, since
One quick thing, Buckabus has been a member of the Bucket for 38 long months. Thank you for long-term support, Buckybus. He says Institute is the best. Also, get rid of Windrose quickly. Windrose was destroying your SSDs. Something badly optimized about it? Huh. Okay,
let
well,
me
I'll
look it
install
up.
it. Well, I do want to
saw
play
that on my
more
feed.
Windrose, but if there's actually a problem with it, I should. Because I really don't have money to replace equipment at this point. So I will just uninstall that. We were going to do more Windrose, but we'll wait until they patch it. I'm going to take Bucky for his word. He's usually pretty spot on about these things.
Yeah, oof. That's bad.
Yeah.
Windrose was writing far too much data on SSD during gameplay. That is actually very bad, because that means your SSD durability,
Is it
bye-bye.
saving every action or something like that? Some games do that.
I don't know the engineering problem behind it, but one thing is consistent is writing too much, which is really not good for the SSD.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna uninstall my game. I'll let Chatfish know. Chatfish, if you got Windrose, maybe uninstall it just for now until they get it fixed. We'll keep an eye out for patches. And if somebody
So
sees
posted it in
Windrose
gaming.
content update, the devs have stated is going to be quite a few months out.
what about a patch for this? Sounds kind of like something you want to.
This is news to me. This.
I'm gonna take.
I
Bucky
posted
for
it in
it
gaming
first.
for you if you want to see, chat. Because this is important for you to know.
My
I
God.
posted it in stream room if you want
It's
to
from
pull
a
it up quick.
scalper, I think. It's from, but regardless, it is something that from a Why
Imagine
you laugh?
fucking a scalper is a source of fucking institution.
Or what do you call it? A scraper?
Shit.
No, I got the article from Bucky
okay,
was from a scraper. A
Someone who's
scraper is
scraping
somebody
the crap,
who scrapes the article, but then doesn't ever cite it. And never gives creditation or credits to people, but scrapes other people's news, and then claims credit for it. It's just,
Yeah.
it's one of the things. It's just whatever. Doesn't matter. Pirate survival game Windrose was accidentally killing your SSD. This was published May 6th of 2026. That's today. No, you weren't being silly pirate survival game. Windrose really was making your SSD work way too hard. To quickly fill you in, following the game's access, release month. Okay, where's the details? Meanwhile, YouTuber Pixel Operative noted Windrose could write up to 108 gigabytes an hour to an SSD. A write is the
Oh my.
process of saving data to the drive, which could wear down the tech. In layman's terms, and just like any tool, such as a mobile phone battery, the more usage an SSD gets, the more it gets worn down, until eventually it dies altogether. In the case of Windrose, the game was forcing the player's SSD to do way too much work, and many worried this would result in damage to their hardware. Thankfully, though, these issues should now be a thing of the past, as Windrose developer Kraken Express released a patch. Oh, okay, well, I installed that unnecessarily, didn't I? Which, among other things, fixes the unnecessary CPU usage on idle server clients. As well as, well, I'm glad I wasn't playing that game too much. Huzzah, and long live the... Okay, so basically it's been addressed now, apparently.
Yeah,
Automatic
and also just to get a scale of the problem, 108 gigabytes an hour to an SSD or up to, that is very, very bad.
Yeah, that's a lot of writing going on to your SSD. What would that do to a disk?
I don't know, but I do know that 108 gigabytes an hour, that's gonna really wear down, as in just really wear down your lifespan, and depending on how much, that's going to quickly add up to a terabyte. Like, depending on how many hours, like, if you say just play for 10 hours, that's a terabyte, which is disgusting. And depending on how many hours you put in different rows, yeah, that's a good few months of your SSD's lifespan just bam deleted like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it does look like they addressed it, but I would double check that information on your own as well, independently, chat, just to be on the safe side. But yeah, any other news, and I'll update and clarify as soon as I know more. So be sure to let me know if that article was misinformation. But it seemed
We
like
had
it was pretty
breaking
legit.
news on this kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
thanks for Artemis for bringing
I'm
that
always
up.
nervous about breaking news because I'm like, oh crap, is it going to be one of those things where I'm going to say it? And then it's like, oh, I just said something that's not true because it changed
Just a
5
bold
minutes
faced
ago.
lie.
And I hate doing that. So always double check, always fact check your kib. Your local kib can be wrong, and it happens from time to time. Jumpa donates $1. Good luck at work, Jumpa.
Yep.
Jumpy,
I'll see you guys later.
See you when you get home. Be a good little Jumpa. Be a good little guy. Oh, okay. I can't be teasing him anymore. He's gone now. There we go.
What a
Good.
chump.
All right. Let's continue this video.
Yeah.
We got sidetracked by that article. Actually, I got
No, it's fine. That was important
26, and I have no idea what the 2030s are going to be like. I'm concerned it will go one of two ways because the pendulum always swings. Either things are going to become even more tightly controlled in bubbles, which means people will stick to this one influencer or this tiny group of influencers, and all of their thoughts will be guided by these people. Or maybe the next generation is going to get tired of that. Get tired of all the...
They're not going to. I can tell you this with certainty that Zoomers are actually worse in this particular regard. From Zoomers I know, from my brothers, from everybody else.
I'm talking to them in real life, maybe
Yeah.
the younger generations.
They're not sick of it. You think that our generation did it a little bit. You are in for a world of surprise. The subsequent
are
generation are even more leaning on this. And again, the world will change. You're right about the pendulum. But that's one of those things that it's gonna be one of those cases of things will change naturally over time. But I think the pendulum is currently swinging harder into that direction. And yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. As various communities, just is getting worse. People just, it's probably more worth discussing or thinking about. Because what alternatives do you have for information other than just
the
trying to always
big
follow
thing that I thought was
developers?
interesting in the beginning was that the way he had mentioned. What I found interesting was how he mentioned past media with almost like a rose-tinted glass sort of vibe. And I remember the past rose-tintedly too. But I thought it was funny, or more of a fun conversation, because when I think about it as a gamer, because I was not into indie development stuff at that age for sure. But it was very much the feeling of randomness. It felt like you knew less and you had less protections. Like if your game was bad, you couldn't refund it. Now you got Steam and you can refund it after 2 hours. The consumers have more power now than they ever did before, and more tools because of the information age. It's actually a good thing. And I think while there is a bad thing when it comes to like these content creators and like them being misleading, that is true. He's not wrong. That is a problem. It's a big problem. But I think it's kind of down to, how to put it? Like, we can't necessarily blame everything on one particular group either, as it's all a myriad of things, right? The reason why nobody trusts the games media anymore was that the games media was corrupt and lied to people and slept with each other to get like special access and permissions and bribed each other even. And it's very clear that, that was a very corrupt system, which led to a lot of misinformation and lies. And so that was not good either. And content creators, are human too. So they are going to make the same mistakes that games journalists made, the same mistakes that the previous media that they replaced will make. They are doing, and they will be. And there will never be a situation in which one thing will be perfectly good, because much like Fallout, the nature of man will simply repeat itself. but in a different way. And that's what I find so fascinating with this. I find it fascinating mostly because I think his game actually answers a lot of the questions here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Also, it's hearing from these how do I phrase it? Wisdom of the ages, or wisdoms of the previous generations. It's important to understand their mindset, and it's a healthy pushback against, hey, are there problems with our own younger generation way of thinking? And also, he still has a lot of experience in the past, like of their good aspects of the 1980s and 90s of way of doing things. There is actually a lot of important positive lessons about that, as I remember just from my days when I was just a little brat, and yes, I will phrase it like that. I was the way of discovering games was through my friends, and also just walking into GameStop and reading myself. I did not have any content creators try to, or any of these conflicting parties trying to steer the conversation or try to push this message out. It was like I talked to the thing on the back, and occasionally I would talk to the GameStop employee. Hey, what do you think of this? And I got lucky with the GameStops I went to. They were just straight up of, okay, this is what the game is like. This is what you expect.
I mean, that's all of us, right? Because I remember what's it, high school. High school, the rise of the YouTubers, the 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. Because I graduated high
It
school.
was
in
a special
2013.
age.
But I remember that period, and I remember all my friends going on about watching Total Biscuit, and some guy named Jesse Cox or something or another. And to be honest, I didn't give two flying iotas of a nanosecond to like the concept of even watching them. They'd watch them, and I would just like roll my eyes and be annoyed because I was like, "The hell." Like, aren't you gonna like look at the game? Like, you're just watching somebody else play it. And that was my view set back then. Granted, I had a different view because I was also around the point in which I decided that YouTube would be something I want to do because it changed my opinion too, right? I was like, wait, maybe if this is actually that influential and actually powerful, maybe becoming a content creator would be good for my own ends to promote my own game stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something. And so I learned, and I learned from my friends. But yeah, so the big thing is that when it comes to those like videos and stuff from that era, it's a lot of people have different views of it. Some people just like consumed and blindly followed, some people don't. But I think again, a lot of the cases of, and I think the problem is I think Tim Kaine has here is that he is a popular man. He is a successful man. He is a voice of authority, whether he wants to realize it or not, or whether other people realize it. I think he knows that actually, but whether other people realize that or not, right? He is the architect, one of the architects of Fallout, right? There were other people that worked on it, but he worked on it too. And so when he says something like capitalism, Fallout was never a criticism of capitalism, and that's not the point of Fallout. And then people go like, "Oh no, you're my boo-hoo." It's like, okay, like you can see what's clearly happening here. These people are dogpiling him now, wrongly so, because the reality is his game wasn't a critique of capitalism. Anyone who plays the game should realize that. But most of the people who
Doesn't really
talk
have
about
anything
it
to do with it.
don't play the game, right? Like if you play modern Fallout or you watch, that's why maybe I wish, I don't know. This is why I that's why I can't really understand why he likes the Fallout TV show. It's just weird to me. But the Fallout TV show is the exact problem I have because it is trying to be like capitalism is bad because it's restructuring the entire story and rewriting the back lore to facilitate that vision. When Tim Kaine and that other guy, Chris Avallone, I almost forgot his name, and his torment, he never forget his torment. Is,
He never
Ah,
created
fun.
his Torment. You mean Planescape Torment?
Planescape
I'm making a
Torment.
reference to the game he worked on, Planescape Torment. But yeah, his torment. But either way,
My torment.
the thing is, right, when it comes down to it, is that these people had more authority to say anything. And when they said that it wasn't a critique of capitalism, the people who were tourists, because this is something I think I wonder if not Chris Avallone, sorry, I wonder if this is something Timothy Kaine understands, is that these people actually don't care about Fallout. They don't like Fallout. In fact, they couldn't give two shits about it. Remember that thing I talked about earlier about people who are tourists and when they enter a thing and they're not really here, they're here to grift and they're here to stand on a soapbox and preach. That's what those people are doing to Timothy Kaine. They didn't like the fact that he was basically telling them the reality that the game wasn't a critique on Fallout. But the game wasn't a critique on capitalism, not Fallout. I'm having a hard time today, apparently. But yeah, the big thing is like, okay, yeah, like he just said it straight. He said it honestly, and you know, I can't believe like the idea of praising that. Like, yeah, it's good. Thankfully, he was honest. But sadly, the reality is, and there are bad devs out there. There are liars like Todd Howard, like Peter Molyneux, right? I don't think Timothy Kane is one of those people at all. I think Timothy Kane is like one of what we call the good guys. He is
One of the
literally,
good ones.
but he seems like a
Fucking
decent
racism
man
here.
when it comes to developers. You know what I mean? Like he's honest, he's truthful, and he's saying his opinion, and he's not really going to apologize for it. He's just going to say what it is.
Well, it's not really an opinion. He made the game.
He made the game. That's
So-
true. It's not an opinion. He made the game. He has a voice of authority. It's the
Stops
same
being
thing.
an opinion when he's the author.
And see, the thing with happened with this man here, Timothy, right, is it's not unique to just Timothy. The Fallout setting has the same exact thing happen that the Halo setting has with the Forerunners. And I know I've been only vindicated because every writer, not only writers for the original games, as well as the teams members that worked on it, all came out and said that Forerunners were humans. And when I double checked and cross-referenced things, and we found out that the Halo 3 terminal that possibly refers to them vaguely, when you look into the terminals, they're actually written by random writers who aren't actually the chief writer. Oh my god, it all starts to make sense, doesn't it?
Yes, the terminals that show up in the Master Chief Collection are all new lore shit.
Well, even the terminals in Halo 3. The terminals in Halo 3, which launched because Halo 3 had terminals added to it on development, right, were not approved by the head writer. They were just added, if I remember right. Hence why the terminals are contradictory to the main plot. That's where the entire thesis or idea of like the Forerunners being potentially Xenos and not human comes from. It's backed up by that one terminal in there. But if you do any digging or research, you actually find out that all the writers, all the creative people, and people who were actually making the setting said no, 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 no. And the only person that said yes didn't actually say yes. It just was kind of written in such a way that it was a bit vague. And it could be interpreted as such. And so the entire thing it's built on, this retcon lore, is all made up. And so the entire foundation vanishes into nothing. I just find it interesting. But yeah, this is why I think Timothy Kane was pretty spot on. Timothy was pretty right here. And also, like, yeah. And because there was a previous thing, to go back to the mentions of people going on about, like, Fallout's critique on capitalism. Timothy Kane himself said, and even in this one as well, that no, it wasn't. It's not about capitalism. It didn't have anything to do with it. The other writer, Chris Avallone, also said the exact same thing. And my entire point is that you're getting people coming from other places that aren't here because they like Fallout. They don't. You made something popular. You made something great. It is great. And that's awesome. But a lot of people that are here now are not here because they like Fallout. They're here because it's popular. And that's why they talk about it. I have met content creators like this, and I know people like this. Do you like Warcraft lore? Do you like Dune? Do you like this setting? No, I fucking hate it. It's like, okay. So why are you talking about it? Like, why are you talking about it? Like, you fucking hate this setting. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, if you're having to use Wikipedia to find the lore for the stuff, I think you don't care. I think you don't care. Perhaps, maybe, instead of being a tourist, actually talk about the things you actually like. Honesty is important, right? It's why, for example, like I said, mentioning myself, right? Expedition 33 is a great example. That's a game that is not made for Kib at all. Is it a bad game? No. Is it a game for me? No. Does that make the game bad and you can't play it? No. And absolutely not. If you want to try it, you want to give it a shot because you like JRPGs, you're probably going to love it. Usually
You
seems to be
like
the ways.
Mario RPG? You'll like Expedition 33.
I've never played Mario RPG, dude. So you're talking with a lot more authority than I do.
Unironically, Mario RPG is where the mini game system comes from.
Really?
Where-
I didn't even know
Yes.
that. I didn't even know.
I played quite a
Yes.
few of them.
So unironically, fucking Expedition 33 is just a rendition of Mario RPGs.
Huh. Well, the more you know.
Said this before.
How do you expect
Yeah.
to find WoW lore nowadays, says Gregors, without Wiki? You think they'll relaunch the old events? I mean, so
Well,
the issue
no,
with WoW
'cause-
lore, real quickly, is that WoW lore is not Warcraft lore. Like, fundamentally, it isn't. Because they've hired, like, several different writers who write, like, various books. Some are good, some are bad. But they really don't have any connection. And they're mostly just apologies to justify expansions. That's what they are. That's what they are.
There's also been
uh,
several retcons that messes up the lore, from what
Here's
people
the
told
issue,
me.
right?
Yes, that
Every
is true.
Wikipedia that for WoW lore has been retconned. So each time there's a new addition to the lore, it rewrites the old lore.
Yeah, this
And
is
that
why.
happens on the Wikipedia, so you can't even find the old lore anymore
Oh,
unless you go back to the old game.
or you go back play the old games, or you go and find the old books. But yeah, that's the issue, and that's one thing. I actually don't know if he's actually talked about it, because I'd love to know what Timothy Kane's thoughts are on lore retcons, because he's gonna have. I don't think he's as much. I don't know. I actually don't know. I'm curious, because like retcons. Now retcons, in my view as a writer, is usually a bad thing. You do not want to retcon things. I got into a conversation with one of my artists because there was a miscommunication, really, is what happened. I had mentioned something, but I didn't write it down. And then they forgot the thing I mentioned, right? And there was supposed to be this ice ring around a planet. And then in the artwork, there was no ice ring. And it's like, okay, well, that's bad. We have to fix that. Because you can't, if we do like have little mistakes like that, that's going to create problems down the road, right? In the case of retcons, that I would go through the writing and I would revise it, right? Let's say we released that product, right, and that had that way, then the lore and the book that came before said that it had an ice ring, and then the planet there doesn't have an ice ring. It's like, okay, what the hell is this? The same planet? Is this not? Is this like a weird psyop thing happening in the story? What's going on here? You know, what's going? There's a lot of things that happen when you do that, and that creates a lot of confusion, and that creates a lot of disconnection, right? Because the first thing that's going to happen when people see that is they're going to be disconnected, because they're going to be like, what? That's not how that works. It was established the other way. And then when it comes down, to other things, when people like change stuff, it's just like, if you make changes to a story, or retcon or revise things, it is no better than effectively spitting on the previous game and insulting the previous game. A retcon, in my view, is bad. It is not only a sign of incompetence, it is a sign of failure. It is a sign of disrespect, and it is a sign of lack of skill. It is nothing but negative. Sometimes retcons must happen because a writer made a mistake in a previous thing and they fucked up.
For
But
reference,
go ahead.
I don't want to talk about this.
No, go
I
for
hate
it.
it. There is a concept within the Elder Scrolls called a dragon break.
What? Say
In
again?
which case, a dragon break.
A dragon break?
Yeah, it's called a dragon break
Okay.
because Akatosh, the god of time, is a dragon, and he can determine like events and shit. Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is used a lot of times as justification for certain events occurring when they could not possibly actually occur. But in recent times, because of this, every time they fuck up the lore, because Emil didn't fucking raid, uh, they will excuse it by saying it's a dragon break. This was always the case.
What? That's dumb.
No, it's true.
I
'Cause,
know. I mean,
so
it's more creative than
Cyrodiil-
most, but still.
You remember Cyrodiil, Kips, from Oblivion?
Yeah, the
right?
capital of the empire, right?
the entire location, right? That's a jungle.
It didn't look like it
That's,
in Oblivion.
that's supposed to be a jungle, yes.
It looked very temperate. It looked very
No,
temperate.
it looked like
A
a
lot of
generic
grassland.
forest. It looked like generic forest plainlands, yes. But because of Lord of the Rings, they wanted to make it based off, base it closer to generic medieval fantasy. And so, because some of the old fans are like complaining about this, like that wasn't the way it was in fucking Elder Scrolls Arena. It was like, okay, a dragon break occurred, and Tiber Septim made it so the land was more verdant and less jungle. The end.
I think that's bad, in my opinion.
It's terrible. I fucking.
I think
hate it.
that's bad. Like, even like it's cute that you tried to come up with like an excuse for it, but I think that's really bad because it feels like that doesn't just happen like as a one-off thing. It's like a recurring I fucked up the writing multiple times thing. Right? It'd be like the equivalent of like writing a character like Celeste and doing like, oh, she's so sad about this, and the next scene she's like laughing about murdering people. It's like, what? Whiplash.
She's always a fucking psychopath.
What the fuck? I thought she was like down to earth or something. Now she's a psycho. What the hell's happening here? Inconsistency. And an inconsistency is not good. It's why I think retcons are bad. And a game is more than just gameplay. I know that's gonna sound stupid. But the reality is that we have always made the mistake, and it's been a mistake in the industry for a long time, for a very long time, that the only thing that matters is gameplay. That's so far from fucking true. It's not even funny. And we shouldn't pretend that that's the case. Gameplay is merely a piece of a puzzle. A video game is what I consider the peak form of artistic creation. It is not just art and visuals and sound and music and voice work and writing. It's also game design and gameplay and interactive media that you can interact with more than you ever could with a movie, more than you could do with anything else in this earth. It makes it something special. And so if it does have great gameplay, awesome. How's the story? Oh, it's shit? Oh, okay, well, that sucks. That's not like, oh, it's got good gameplay. Like, you know how I say that, chat? I'm like, that's when I'm going like, I really like this game. It's got great gameplay. And chat's like, how is your story? It's really bad. If you can ignore the story, then you can enjoy this game. You know what that means? That's fucking terrible is what that means. That means, oh my God, they did really good in the gameplay, but Jesus Christ, the writer, like, he died while writing it. Like, he just died on the keyboard, and then he had a fucking, his body was wiggling or something, and the keyboard, they just kept it.
Like, no one plays blank game for the story. Stop complaining about it. People only say that when the story's fucking dog shit.
Yeah, no, the story matters. The story has always mattered. The gameplay has always mattered. Your sound effects have always mattered. Your user interface has always mattered. And there's never been a case in which it hasn't. It's never been true. It's never been true. Everything matters.
If your story is so bad that it wraps around to being funny, and that's good again, that also works.
I mean, if it's ironic, right? It's like the Resident Evil movies, right? They're fucking terrible, but they're funny. It's not ideal, right? Because it wasn't intended. It's like, oh, it's so serious. And look at my main character. It's like, oh my God, this is so bad. This is funny. That's, in a way, it's like, okay, well, at least it has some value, right? Like, this is terribly funny, but it's also bad. Then there's some validity to it, right? At least you have something, right? There's something there. In the same vein that it's good that a game has good gameplay, but that's why story matters. That's why story is important. That's why I disagree with them about the Fallout TV show. And I know it's probably going to sound autistic to fixate on that, but it's one of those things I think is big because everything matters. You can't just say only one thing matters about a game. It's the story matters, the gameplay matters. Is it buggy? Is it not buggy? Does it have options? Does it have a field of view? It doesn't? Well, that matters. That actually matters. And I had to have this conversation at length on a dev meeting once, where I was like, okay, I want accessibility options, and I want our game to have a lot of accessibility stuff. And there were some people on the team going like, oh, that's going to add a lot of extra work, and already like going to take a bajillion years to do this. And we're adding like, you're talking about color blindness modes, and I'm like, yeah, I think they matter. And here's why, right? Because some people will not buy it if the game does not have rebindable keys. Some people won't buy your game. You just lost sales. Everything matters. Your story sucks. You gotta, like, my protagonist is a girl who just gets given things and doesn't have to earn anything, and she's just a Mary Sue and does whatever she wants.
He steals a previous main character's last name?
Or
Why would
something.
he do that?
What are you even referencing? What the heck? I feel like that's a reference for something.
Ray Skywalker kids.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was like, what? That feels familiar. But yeah, so like...
That feels weirdly familiar.
So yeah, like that's an example, right? Like it matters. Your story matters. And that's why I think every aspect of a video game matters. There's no such thing as like, you can have mid gameplay, like, marathon, it's a good battle royale. It's really fun gameplay mechanics. Okay, how's it hold up to marathon's lore and setting? No,
It doesn't.
it doesn't. Listen, Tim, we can admire Tim's beard, all right, chat? Like that's what we're gonna admire. Like, I got a lot to say, all right? Like that's why I like his video, because it had so much thought-provoking ideas in it that I felt like we should expand upon, because it is, and it's something we should have a discussion on. These are important topics. I really do believe that, actually, because I genuinely care about gaming. Gaming is like the thing for me. It's like the thing. It's like my world revolves around it. I am literally drowning in it. Everything matters. And that's why I think everything does matter. Because I think developers, I see developers just dismiss people. I don't know. Like, it's like, oh, well, it doesn't really matter. Like, well, well, we locked our files, so it's not easy to mod. Yeah, but that matters. It does. Like, whether you lock your files or not. If you add DRM to your game, it matters. It really does. And I think we need to have a discourse about this, because I think other developers need to have this conversation too. We all need to talk about it. Because I think we often see this happen too much in the industry, where it feels like, well, is a game fun? Well, the game's fun, so that's good enough. Avowed is that in a nutshell. The gameplay's kind of fun. Well, how about the rest of it? Yeah, it's not so good.
It takes a big dump on previously established Pillars of Eternity lore in a major way.
So you see the issue? Yeah, because Fuzzy, you get it. You know what I'm talking about. Like it's like, yeah, the gameplay's fun, but how does the story hold up compared? It's like, if it's set in the universe of Pillars of Eternity, then it must respect the setting it's a part of, right? The best Star Wars games are the Star Wars games that didn't like spit in the face or try to deconstruct things, because guess what? Spoiler alert, when it came to Star Wars games, Knights of the Republic 1 was a faithful Star Wars game. Knights of the Republic 2 was not a deconstruction, as much as Reddit would like to have you believe that. But it's like, Quaya was Gway. It's like, okay, like, well, what's this picture of her? What's this picture of her evil and holding red lightsabers and being evil and saying evil stuff? What's that mean? Tell me what that means, game. Tell me what that means. Tell me what that means. It's like, no, it wasn't a deconstruction. The whole thing with her character was like a lead up, right? It was like the big twist. But yeah. Let's give up Cataprod. That's for when Chatfishes get uppity. I zap them. Zap. Like
a real streamer, he has to zap his pet.
Oh no. This just keeps becoming
And
unfortunate reference. Yeah, I didn't zap that Chatfish. He's like, look at him. It's just a fried little carcass.
It's not a zap collar.
It's not a zap stick, chat.
That's not a Pikachu right there.
I didn't zap that Chatfish. What smells burnt?
Because they're kids as friends, we have to help them out. Like, it's not a zap collar, guys. Clearly, it's not.
You gotta glaze the kib.
Yeah, it's clearly not.
Glaze
if it
kib.
was, I'd tell you. But it isn't.
It was, I would tell you. Like, as you're like side-eyeing, the dog, because you feel bad about it. Like, you have a little bit of a conscience. I don't think
Twitch streamers have any conscience.
Damn. Okay, I was gonna I felt like it'd be more comical if you felt bad about it.
No, they're the scum of the earth. No.
The scum of the earth. All right. Not hashtag not all.
Yes, all.
I'm sure there are some good ones.
There's not a single good one.
I just can't name any. But
I just can't name it.
I'm bad with names, chat. That's the issue. That's the issue. Let's see. Genghis Khan says Darth Ray symbolizes Disney's secret loathing of Star Wars. Well, I mean, it's not just loathing. There's
Yes, Ray.
it's a
She's
lot of
actually
it.
Palpatine, by the way. She's a Ray Palpatine.
Yep, we know. We've been down this road. I'm almost sick to death talking about new Star Wars. I could live with eternity. We can move on from it and just pretend it never happened.
No, okay. We need to acknowledge it and then
I
constantly
acknowledge
bring
it
up.
happened, but I don't want to bring it up all the time because it makes me mad. It makes me mad.
It's canonical.
Ugh. All right, so the hell were we? Okay, you know what? Let's see if he has any further points. We were basically at the end. I think he's wrapping up his thought.
Labeling and tired of all placing things in a box. I've defined a box, and this game is in this box, and I'm not going to view it any other way. I'm curious. I'm curious where that goes. The internet basically allows the pendulum like that to swing really far and really fast. So I don't know where the 2030s are going to go, but that's what's happened with game design and online influencers and social media over about the last 45 years. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a really good
That's
video.
about it.
I mean,
Now,
there
as
was a
to
lot
the
of good
pendulum
thoughts.
swing, Yeah. I think the pendulum swing is going to get worse for the content creators. I think for at least another year or two, at least before it gets better. It could start swinging back or fixing by 2030, but you're already seeing some simmering that we're almost at the tail end of the pendulum swing with the whole content creator problem and the whole corruption problem and how it's affecting gaming. So it's a way of, okay, let's see how things simmer or cook over the next year or two. But as the current state, it's still not good. Not good at all. If you're referring to current state.
Yeah, no, I can see that. But I'm interested because like this brings up an interesting conversation, right? So chatfishes. How do chatfish feel about this question, right? The internet has affected gaming. There's definitely validity to that. I think the issue here, in my opinion, is not necessarily content creators. I think content creators are part of the problem, but I think the issue is actually developers and publishers. Because publishers will probably push this in board meetings, will probably push click, 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 click. 5-second video. Yes. Because like we've all played games, and all of you have, and I know you guys have. When you played a game, right, and you're playing through it, and you've gotten to that scene or cut scene where like, yep, they just made that cut scene for the trailer, and that was it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the gameplay. It's very obviously just trailer promo material. Like, scene from the trailer. It's like, okay, but does that matter? That just happened. This is what immediately came to my mind.
Yeah, I think you really hit a point here about developers and publishers, especially. You have to. I say you have to tackle each individually, developers in a box and then publisher in the box, and then combine the two. But this is definitely a feedback problem. Where if you look at other industries, for example, and how they get feedback on the paying customer, a lot of those lessons gaming hasn't fully learned yet. Even in other mature industries like movies and movies, anime, entertainment. Getting customer feedback is a mature science. Gaming hasn't fully found out how to balance out the artistic direction and also make sure you're still satisfying the paying customer aspect of how do you get this right. And right now I think we're still in the same phase. In many aspects, we're still in the same phase as we were 20, 30, 40 years ago of you're seeing a lot of the feedback and corruption problems you're seeing in the magazine times you're still seeing today, and not fully a lot of those hard lessons are not being learned, even though a lot of this is an established science of how do you sample customer feedback. And it's not just picking 5 people. And I will phrase it like that because, yes, it may be 5 content creators, that is still only 5 people.
Yeah.
Just like you maybe only said it, maybe just like you may be only sampling 5 review writers for PC Gamer IGN, you're only getting 10, 20 people. I'll just give you a little statistics term you learn. You at least need 1,000 people to be able to begin to extrapolate onto a wider audience. Gaming is easily in the millions upon millions of people. You're not going to get that from 5 content creators easily.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna. And that's why also I'm wondering, like, okay, is there an issue with content creators covering games? I think we can all agree yes. I mean, there is a certain issue, an issue where there's disingenuous reviews or just lazy or copycats and stuff like that. Don't put effort into it. But I do think, and I do believe this, while there are problems, I do believe it's better that a lot more people have a voice than fewer people have a voice. I will take that over the past era. Because, like I said in the previous era, like I said in the beginning of the stream, you know, going to the store as a kid and only being able to look at the boxes to determine which game to get. And then later, you know, going to the store, but I had a magazine to look through before going to the store because we were subscribed to various gaming magazines. And so then we had a little bit more information about the games that were coming out. And so it was like, okay, this is better rather than just guessing and buying a, you know, $80 game, and because they were $80 back then. Oh, God help me. I have some with stickers that say $80 on them back behind me. But yeah, the Sega Saturn boxes. But yeah, you buy those games and be like, no, this is kind of like, this kind of sucked. Man, this actually sucked. We spent $80 on this. And bear in mind, that was $80 in like the early 2000s slash very late 90s, right? And so I think it got better because, yeah, well, the internet did change things, and we did get YouTubers, and we did get some yub nubbers who do lie and are disingenuous or don't actually give proper faithful reviews. I think the reality is it's better that we get a little bit of stinky eggs because it's better to take some bad eggs than what happens if the entire system is corrupt. What happens when the whole system for reviews that we had, like the PC Gamer Mags, the PlayStation Gamer Mags, and the Xbox Mags, what happens when they're corrupt? Well, we got the 2010s. We got the big Gamergate thing that happened, which was kind of like one of those instances where it was very eye-opening because you realized how corrupt the industry had become. The corruption and rot that had seeped in. Now, bear in mind that it wasn't like this corruption or rot was new. It's not like it just appeared out of the blue. It did exist way back when. The first company and the first thing that I remember reading early about in the gaming industry that was corrupt and did fuck up and did do bad things was a publisher by the name of Interplay. Interplay published some of my favorite games from old times. Some of the games I think that's the most magical, like Shiny Entertainment's Sacrifice or Earthworm Jim, you know? A lot of oldies. But Interplay is dead. Just like Virgin Games is dead. These are ancient publishers that are little carcasses now. Little skeletons. Some of you might not even know what Virgin Games is. Some people are like, what? What would call themselves Virgin Games? That's so weird. Man, well, that's what they call themselves. That's what they call them. These things had problems even back in the 90s part of game development. Now, I have never really researched and dabbled in research too much into the 80s stuff for game development, so I don't really look at that too much. So I'm not going to really be able to cite much. But like 90s stuff, I did do a lot of digging on. Mostly because I was born in 94, and I remember a little bits of it because I was only like 6 years old when 2000, when the turn of the century happened, and or turn of the millennium. But yeah, and that was like a child's perspective, right? So most of the stuff I had to research later when I was an adult to really understand what was going on. So it's one of those things where things did change. Wasn't it Virgin Interactive at one point? Yeah, something. I can't remember if it was Virgin Games or Virgin Interactive. But yeah, there were another company. A lot of companies back then. A lot of companies that have faded out of relevance, right? Electronic Arts, for example, started as a company known for artists that was run and managed by actual electronic artists. Some point down the road, it got taken over by a bunch of corporate suits. And that was pretty early on to its early days, because I remember my uncle talking about that long time ago in like the early 2000s. So that happened ages ago. But yeah, it's one of those things where things change. But the thing is it bad? Is it worse now than it was back then? No, not at all. I think the issue that a lot of people have is that we do have a rose-tinted glass, right? I remember all the great games of the 90s and early 2000s that I liked as a kid. But I can also remember the bad ones. And that's mostly because of you guys, to be honest. Because you guys make me look at and play old games from my childhood sometimes. And I get to re-experience those things. Are like, ooh, maybe I understand why the discovery of bad games existing was important, right? Because all of us had this point. I remember this point as well. I remember being a kid. I remember thinking that all games were perfect and that if I didn't like a game or couldn't beat a game, it's because I didn't understand it, because I could never beat any games. When I was 3 years old or 4 years old or whatever it was, I can't remember. I think it was 3. I was playing games and I just couldn't beat anything. I just like pushed buttons and I could barely beat the first level. And I remember this. And I remember like being able to beat the first couple levels when I got older, but I could never beat the games. I could never beat any game. I would play a game, put a disc in, play a few levels, get stuck on something, take disc out, put next disc in. And that's exactly what I did all the time. But I remember discovering my first bad game. And I believe it was a game called Sonic Racing. When I realized and had the revelation, I was like, this is bad. Like, it's not me that's bad. I think this is bad. And the concept where it was like, oh my God, the game is bad. The game is bad. What? The games are bad? Games can be bad? And like, as a little kid, it was like a eureka moment. It sounds absolutely stupid now, and it is, because I was a dumb little kid. I was genuinely flabbergasted. The concept of a game being bad was like impossible to understand, right? But as we grow older, we learn these things. And then when you start to look at those older catalogs, you realize how much shovelware there was, right? Now, when I think of movie games, I think of all the good ones. But most movie games, like a good chunk of them throughout history, were friggin' terrible. And only recently, when you look at, well, recently, 2000s, right? Then we get movie games that were good. It was like, wow, the Dune movie game's kind of good. You know, the Dune Awakening movie game's even pretty good too. In the more modern context, but like Lord of the Rings movie games or Harry Plopper movie games from EA were actually pretty all right. The Hobbit movie game or book game, which is based on the book, was surprisingly a gem of a platformer for the Xbox OG. Like, there's actually a lot of good ones, but those actually didn't occur originally. In fact, if you go back before, the decade before, the 2000s to the 90s, movie games are kind of fucking terrible. And it's more like synonymously like all bad almost. And so it's like weird. Like, things come and they go. Like, things get good and they get bad, right? EA had its moment, got big, kind of got crappy, then got good, like really good, where they're just like, let me just keep putting out gold. Here's another good game. Here's another great game. Here's another good game. And then all of a sudden, 2010, EA is like, here's another trash game. Here's another trash game. It's like, what are you doing? What happened? Like, somebody die and fall into the little factory machine and it's printing out dead people now? Like, what's going on? And there's usually a correlation, is the one thing I want to say. Because I do think there's a correlation here. And I think that to say one thing or say like YouTubers are all the bad isn't necessarily true. Are they a part of the problem? Yes, I do believe so. I do think he's absolutely spot on there. But I think we also need to look at developers. We need to look at publishers, because they're also at fault. And we also need to look at gaming news media. Gaming news media in the past paved the way for this by making excuses, by ass kissing and bootlicking, because it's what they did, and they did it so they get early access and get early scoops on stories for upcoming games. And it's a totally understandable thing why they did it. You look at any journalistic like sector throughout human history, to get the first scoop, you'll do what it takes to get the first scoop, because it's first come first serve kind of deal when it comes to news. And so people did things. People did morally questionable things like sleeping with each other to get, earlier access to things and information, stuff like that. And just like, it's just little bits of debauchery, like with any industry, when money's attached, people that enter the industry are entering it for different reasons, right? In the early days, most people, like when Tim Kaine started, were just doing it because it was a hobby. He even talks about it in the video, right? Where he talks about the emails. How it was like he was the only one doing it, then all of a sudden everybody else was doing it. He was doing it mostly for academic reasons, right? And so it's like interesting, because I've never heard that. I'd never really looked into that, but I've always assumed that something like that happened during that period of transition of technology. But I was too small and tiny to really understand what was happening. But yeah, so it's one of those things where I think it's good to question. We should always question what people say. You should question what I say, because I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy. And a human being can be wrong. And that's an important thing to remember, that everyone's human. Whether you have a microphone, whether you're talking into it, or whether you're, typing up an article like a journalist or something. Like, it doesn't matter. If it's written and made by human hands, odds are it can be bad on occasion. Not everyone's gonna, hit a home run every single day. So there's gonna be bad stuff. Oh no, chat, not the only I'm only human song, please. I'm only human after all. Oh my god. But yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation. Any further thoughts, Fuzzy and Squealy Line?
Not really.
That is more than fair. Honestly, this lasted way longer than I thought it would, but I wanted to experiment with this, and I was kind of against doing this kind of content to begin with, because I don't like watching somebody else's other thing, but I wanted to try something different. So you guys got to let me know if you like this, or if you think this is meh. And if so, whatever. Critique and criticism is good. Helps me grow, helps me get better, because I too want to make better content. But I too have limitations, because I'm just a little kid guy. And little kid guys can only do so much. It's true. But yeah, I like this channel a lot. I like Timothy Kane's stuff a lot. He's got some very thought-provoking videos about gaming. You can disagree with them or whatever, but I think it's important that everybody hear other ideas, even if you don't necessarily agree with them, because these kinds of conversations, I think, are fantastic. People should be talking about stuff. People should be, going like, hey, I don't really agree with that point, or like that, and then be vocal about it. But like, well, I didn't agree with a lot of like things where it felt like it was more like leaning towards the new thing feeling kind of like it was like the more bad thing, or like the reason why people put things in boxes, right, and categories, is because the constraints. I think that developers should just make games they want to make, and I shouldn't really affect that. Now, the cases in which I disagree with that sentiment, because this is the other part of the conversation I wanted to get to, is that, for example, a pre-existing series, say it's Halo, say it's Gears of War, or Total War, or Command & Conquer, right? These pre-existing series should be respectful to previous iterations. So, any game built on top of a foundation of a franchise must be respectful of the game that came before. And that's my personal opinion. I view that very strongly. You guys know that. I really believe that if a game is set to be the sequel of another game, then it should be spot on. Like, it should be as connected as possible and be as respectful to the previous source material, and should not stray at all. It should be faithful. And I believe that vehemently. And that's why I think it's important to make that distinction, because I do agree with the sentiment that if a developer's making a game, let's say we're making, Blobby 2, or no, not Blobby 2, Blobby 1, The Great Blobbening, right? Whatever the hell that is. And Blobby is like a platformer game, right? And we establish it's a platformer game. And we should just make the game we want to make. We should make the game we want to make, and the game, because if you make the game you want to make, and you believe in the game you're making, you're going to end up with something that might look like Factorio. You could also alternatively end up with something that might not necessarily be as successful, though. Factorio is an example of an extreme case of he made the game he wanted to make, and he made a factory simulating game. And it did incredibly well. And great for him, right? But sometimes people make games, and I know I'm not going to name names of projects that didn't quite make it because it'd be mean. But there are some people that make projects, and they try to chase their dreams, and it just didn't work out. Because there wasn't as much of a demand for it, or the execution was bad. Whatever the reason, right? There was a reason, but it just didn't pan out. The nature of development is that it is kind of a scary business. And that's why I think content creators are a tool for the toolbox of the good, for the most part. Because thanks to content creators, in my opinion now, I discovered games that I had actually missed. Some games, and then I went and uncovered them myself, right? Or I spent like a great deal of researching a game, and sometimes I'll find something and I'll show it to Chatfish, and Chatfish will be like, "Wow, what's this video game?" And then they go out and scramble and wrap the little fins around it, because they never heard of it before. I think that the information age we have now is better because before it was relying on those big news publications. Can you please cover my game? Okay, we'll look at it. I don't like the game. I also don't like your stances. So it's a 1 out of 10. Poopy game. And it's like, what the hell? That's terrible. Now people are going to look at that and just immediately dismiss me. And then they will, right? And it's like, okay, who's my alternative? All right, PC Gamer. I'm friends with the guy from IGN, and I also give it 2 out of 10. It's a poopy game. It's like, oh my fucking god. Like, where do I go after that? I made it only for PC. There's only a few other places to go. And I'm starting to run out of places, right? Nowadays, I can just be like, hey, here's my game. Take a look at it. Here's a Yup Nub videos about it, and people can play it, and they'll make a demo about it. People can make videos about it if they like it. And if they like it, they'll make videos about it. And word of mouth will inherently allow for the success of my game through merit, through the meritocracy that I earn, right? I earn it. It's a much better alternative than the previous method, in my opinion, because now we get things like Factorio. Now we get things like Dwarf, the upcoming RTS game that looks amazing, or Dust Front, which also looks really good. Like, there's a lot of really cool games that if it was up to the big gaming publications, they would never given them the time of day. Not unless they could, they thought it was going to be something good. And so that's why I think it's important that we kind of just we should be critical of the content, of content creators. We should be critical of people like me. But at the same time, we should also just have more open conversations as a whole about everything, not just, upcoming games, just in general. I think it's healthy. I think it's nice. And I liked talking about this quite a bit. It was quite nice. I was thinking about this while actually working on my car all day. That was pretty nice. But yeah. Do you think IGN, PC Gamer, or the other review orgs will last, or is their time over? It is entirely dependent on a couple of factors. How much money they have saved up, whether they're getting a cash inflow of something. But I think they are naturally destined to fade away in the sake of individual content creators, purely based on that basis. Unless they massively overhaul their outlook. If we're talking about older publications like PC Gamer, right? They need to change up how they think, because how they're doing things, they're still doing them the same way that they were doing them back in 2001, 2002. They haven't changed. 1999, 1998, because I've looked at magazines from that era. They haven't really changed, and the issue is that that's not going to work forever. Think that you're going to have to adapt with the times. Independent content creation is not only faster, but they can just be outcompeted, right? Like, for example, let's say there's a new game coming out that Synthno State wants to go find, and he's like, oh, cool, I'm looking for this new RPG. And, okay, I'm going to go to the dedicated RPG YouTuber guy who's going to cover it, right? And he's going to cover it in great detail. And you're just going to go to him, and you're going to see him, like, yep, he's talking about it. I like what I see, or no, I don't. We're going to probably turn a blind eye to that, and that's how you're going to go. Versus waiting for a magazine to publish a review. Because Tim, he already kind of answered that question too, right? Like, when it comes down to it, the problem is these reviews from these places take a considerable amount of time for them to put out. And by the time they're put out, people don't care. They've already kind of moved on past them. And eventually something might replace me. I might be replaced too in the future. It just really doesn't. We don't know. And he's right when it's like, it is kind of curious to ask, what's 2030 going to bring, right? Like, this is how things are now. Is it going to stay the same? Is this actually what peak gaming looks like? Or are we going to see, are we going to see a new thing come out that's going to help make this better? I'm genuinely curious. And timidly scared. As my career fades away. It could happen, though. And if it does, then it happens for a reason. And that's just the nature of the biz. Back in the early 90s, says Night Motorcycle, 2000s, we had more patience. Yes, but at the same time, nowadays we're bombarded by things like we have downloads, we have high-speed internet, right? Like, now, oh, God. Reggie, did you even have to go to stores? Like, what was it? What's the earliest gaming purchase experience you remember? Oh, he might have waddled away. Oh, no. Because he's the youngest guy here. All right, well, we'll have to ask him when he comes back. Fuzzy, what was your earliest gaming purchase? What do you remember?
I mostly remember my PS1 and all the games I got for that. And usually it was just me when I was still growing up in Northeast Jersey, right next to New York City. It was just parents driving me to GameStop. I look around, I pick a game, and usually, yeah, that's just about it. I didn't really have much experience with gaming magazines. I didn't even look at them for reviews. I just looked at them mostly for, hey, is there anything upcoming and interesting going on?
I
mostly just looked at the game. Yeah, I mostly just looked at them. I had a collection for the longest time, and it was just me looking at the boxes myself and through friends and through just word of mouth, and also looking at the boxes myself. Do I like this? Heck, even for the longest time, I didn't have much experience or just dealing with the influencer content creator community. I mostly looked at Let's Plays. I didn't even look at reviews. I only look at reviews these days just because I look for people. Hey, does this person come from this kind of background? Maybe he'll come from a perspective that's different from me. That's the only time, and even then, it's like I usually just go to the bullet points because a lot of them will just waddle about stuff. It's like, hey, do I like X, Y, and Z mechanic? Let me show you some gameplay. So I'm kind of from just I would say I'm from a different perspective where, again, I mostly looked at raw gameplay for the longest time. This whole corruption with the influencer community, content creator community, gotta stop myself from doing that.
You're hurting me. No worries, it's fun.
I know. I honestly have very little experience dealing with it for the longest time, to where I was mostly oblivious to it for the longest time. It wasn't until my community college years that I get more and more exposed to even the Angry Joes of the world, because I even follow him for the longest time. It's like, I'm kind of, I can't say I'm surprised in many ways, because I already know how to think for myself. So, to me, this is kind of second nature for me to not just blindly listen to a lot of these people, and also due to my New Jersey attitude, whenever I say a lot of them, I know YouTube doesn't like cursing, but when a lot of them spew BS, I just go, wait a second, there's a problem here. It's like, you're not being entirely honest. It's like, you're not doing, this is my take on this piece of evidence or this gameplay mechanic. This is him trying to just skew something, or he's coming from a skewed perspective to where he's not looking at it even objectively, and you can't do that. Because again, this is the gameplay mechanic, this is what I think of it. A lot of them don't do that. A lot of them aren't even honest on what perspective they're coming from. And you see this with so many ways where, when I see Tim Kaine talk about a lot of it, I just go, welcome to human nature. Welcome to, I've seen this before. You see this in all sorts of media. You gotta learn how to filter people's stuff out, what their perspective is, and because we all do this, I do this. We're gonna come at it from a different lens, and a lot of us are just gonna have to learn going through it. And I guess with gaming, a lot of the lessons haven't been learned, and I don't see the younger generations even learning those lessons, because the hive mind mentality is still very much a thing. Now, it might have been because I was raised by my parents right, which I think has a lot to do with it, to where I just don't blindly listen to a lot of these celebrity content creators that like to think highly of themselves. So, and I'm just
It also
rambling
depends.
now, but
I know it also depends on the content creators, because just because they're big and popular doesn't mean I think much, right?
you just
It's about the individual in question.
Yes.
Like what kind of reviews they're making, right? Is it a comedy? Is it entertaining? Or is it like an actual genuine review? And I think I've been around on YubNubs long enough, and I've used it long enough, that I kind of have all my reviewers in my review box where I keep them, where it's like, okay, I want to look at something about like a game that I missed out on, and I want to see if it may be something that'd be interesting for chat to see, and I might watch something like that. Like an example would be the Mandalore gaming YouTuber. he did a thing where he talked about a game that I have that I remember buying and thinking it was weird as hell. And it's this weird game where ships are alive and you have to like harvest blood. And it's very weird. And he played it and I'm like, I'm not sure if I want to ever like stream that honestly. Cause I remember playing that and going like, this is kind of derpy. This is kind of, and it just like watching the review reminded me that yeah, it was kind of derpy. Some games just came out and they were just very, interesting. They were weird, but they were interesting, but they didn't have any meat to it. Adverse to something like Earth 2150, like we streamed yesterday, where it's a old game made by Polish devs, but it did a lot of really interesting things that no other game did before. Like for example, it had an overworld where you could like bring vehicles from your main base to the missions, and another game did this, by the way, called Warzone 2100 by Pumpkin Studios. Rest in peace, little Pumpkin Studios. They're in heaven now. But yeah, they produced a similar game that has a similar mechanic where you build units, then you go on an expedition to an area, and you can also both games you can customize your units, which is a really interesting thing in real-time strategy games because you wouldn't see that really reappear until something like Impossible Creatures came out later from Relic Entertainment. And it was one of those mechanics that was like really cool, but for whatever reason, only a handful of games and a very, very small handful of games ever did that with the whole build your own units, customize your own army system. Possible Creatures, Warzone 2100, and Earth 2150, which was, again, really cool conceptual ideas. But yeah. Squealy. Damn it. I really want to. He's got a good answer for that. We might have to save that for another stream. Oh, well.
Sadness.
That's okay. It would have been nice to know. Because he's younger. He's younger by a few years compared to you and I. Because he probably experienced what my brothers experienced. Roughly. Because I talked to my brothers about this. And my broskies, like, they're a decade younger than me. I was born in 1994. They were born in 2004, right? So a whole 10-year gap. Pretty big deal. When they played games, their experience with gaming was 90% mobile games and iPhone and like Apple tablet games, followed by the Wii, which they were just playing the games that I had because it was my Wii. They would always throw the controllers and damage them, little bastards. But their experience was mostly talking about things like now. And they talk about like using the Epic Game Store to like get free games and to just like, oh yeah, just press the button to get the free game and that's it. And like when it comes to like, oh, like I talked about like gaming in general, and that they're very much casual compared to me. They didn't get as invested. Like the concept of modding is, I think, something that they're not super keen on. And so it's one of those cases where it's like, it's interesting because they have a very different view of gaming as a whole. They actually don't really have the same attachment that a lot of other people do. In fact, they're more like what, weirdly, they remind me more of what it was like in the the early 2000s, where they do video game stuff, but they mostly do physical things. Like one of my brothers loves his motorcycle. He likes to motorcycle a lot. And my other little brother loves to do golf and stuff. Likes that kind of sports outdoor activity stuff. So it's just really fascinating. Because it seems like the younger generations, and it's not just my brothers, I've noticed this with cousins as well, where there's like not a huge interest in gaming like there was. The spark that was the 90s and 2000s, right? Where it became like everybody was doing it. Because I remember high school and all the girls, well, not all the girls, but a good chunk of girls and almost all the guys, almost all of them were playing video games. All of them. Good chunk of the girls played World of Warcraft even. Like as an example, one of my exes at the time like played the crap out of Sims 3, I think it was what it was during that time. But yeah, and it was like it was an interesting period because everyone was participating in gaming. Everybody was playing Clash of Clans on their silly little phone. That was a thing. Because granted, I grew up in the period when smartphones became a thing, so it was like the transition from flippy phones to oh my god, smartphones. Like. And they have games on them and stuff. It was like, wow, everyone's playing games all the time. Or they're playing mini clip games or addicting games with the web browsers. And then school administrators had to block that, I remember. And then I remember how we got around that as we brought in USB sticks with Wolfenstein, old games on them, because those computers were Windows XP. So we brought games from the previous generation, things like Wolfenstein, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and Quake. I believe it's Quake 3 Arena. I think is what it was called. Yeah, Quake 3 Arena is the one, and that would like be the one, Warzone 2100, because those old games would fit on a thumb drive, and thumb drives back then were commonly 4 to 8, and the expensive ones 16 gigabytes. I know, right? They're so small compared to how big they are now. Oh, it's painful. I feel old now, but like
Yeah.
like 100 gigs, and that's how people would get around it. But everyone was participating in it. The younger generations don't seem as much as interested by comparison. It's weird. Maybe it's just like a
Yeah.
local area. I wanted to ask Squealy because he grew up as a young age. And I want to know if there was like a difference. Chat, I guess I have to turn to you next. How do you feel about the younger generations now, chat, when it comes to gaming? Is everybody still participating in gaming like they were, at least when I experienced it? Or is gaming kind of feeling like it fell out as like a zeitgeist thing that everybody did? People still do it casually, but I notice it's mostly casually now. Like very casual.
One thing I have been noticing is, like, and this is a number thrown out years ago, that was shown years ago. The average age of the gamer is our age, in their mid-30s, and that's only gotten older at the time. I wonder if all the problems now, that's probably because you have several generations of gamers. This is an old, aging industry, so younger generations aren't likely the biggest spenders, are the ones that are eating up most of the time, because it's probably the 30s, 40s, and 50s even that's eating up most of the time these days. And that's one thing I've been noticing, because in fact this has been around 40 years. That's 3 generations of gamers right then and there.
That's true. That is insane.
So I'm wondering how much the younger generations are actually going to influence the industry in the future, or is this going to become a, yeah, we could all participate, but it's going to be the ones with the expendable income that are
That are
have
getting
more
the
influence.
heavier stuff. Yeah, because that's the tier thing that's different. That's another interesting conversation. Some younger generations of gamers are basically kind of stuck in the what games they can kind of enter level. And a lot of the games we play that are in our sphere is like hyper hard games, as in like hard, not hardcore. I don't like, but it is kind of like that, right? Like it's like, okay, you gotta like mod it, and you gotta tweak it, you gotta like download it, you gotta install some fixes and patches and stuff. And there are some games that are like casual entry, like Hogwarts Legacy, right? But like where it's like it's a more normal, more entry thing. But yeah, and they usually move from topic to topic. Yeah, because I do. Yeah, Synthosate says game. The kids are still gaming. Yeah, I'd figure they were, because most of them I think are like they play Roblox stuff, which I cannot understand. Maybe I
That's a
never will.
toddler thing. That's probably a toddler thing.
Yeah, because like
But you're a little
Roblox, when
okay.
I look at that, I'm like, and I see adults playing it, I'm like, oh, it must have something in it, right? And I look at it and like, I mean, it's like a template. You can make any game you want in it, but then I just don't see the appeal personally. Maybe it's just like how it's presented or how it's conducted. Personal preference, I'll chalk it up to, I suppose. But yeah, Runshin Sundown says, I'm 40 and want to play the games I want and don't care what younger people want. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. But the reason why I ask what younger generations are doing is because this is actually going to be, in a way, how to put it, we don't need to necessarily care, right? Make the game you want to play the games you want to play. Don't play because other people are playing it. You don't have to play the most popular thing because it's popular. Play what you want to play, right? That's the mentality you should have, right? Don't do it because it's a chore, and then what the hell are you doing? But it's one of those things where I think it's interesting because it's going to determine what newer big studios will be putting out, because they're going to be tailoring games for them. And that's why I find it interesting when Ting Game mentions like making games for yourself, or like not making games for yourself, but like making the game you want to make. When I think about that statement and I try to apply that to Microsoft, that just like dissolves in my mind. A big AAA publisher allowing the developers to make what they want to make? Are you kidding me? That sounds so outlandish. It sounds otherworldly. I wouldn't expect them to do that. In fact, would be genuinely in shock if that was how they worked. I feel like it's okay, we need to make a battle royale game to appeal to battle royale people, or the canceled now Halo battle royale that's rumored, right? We need to switch it from battle royale because that's out of the zeitgeist to extraction shooter because that's in Helldivers 2, Far Far West, etc., etc. Arc Raiders, all these big games that are really in right now. Battle royale is on the out. The new thing is extraction shooters at the moment. Troya, Roblox are for peasants that suck at modding their games. Damn. Isn't Roblox also really cheap, though? So, I mean, there could be an economical reason for it, too. It's not just that. Stuff like Roblox and Minecraft are the default entry points. But a lot of kids seem to branch out, even to 90s games. Huh,
I have to
curious.
check the time. I actually have to head out for a bit. So
Take
I'll see you later.
care. Squealy's not back. Squealy's still dead. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo. All right. As much as I don't care for Souls-like, says Russian Sun does, I don't find them fun. I'd never ask the devs to cater to me because I want the devs to make games they want to make. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's exactly my mindset, too. If Dark Souls is for Dark Souls players, then by God, let every Dark Souls game be for the Dark Souls players. Let them have something, because I can tell you what it's like to not have something, right? It's like when EA, killed all the things I love. Killed Command and Conquer, right? There went something I loved, and I'll never get it back. That's why I say that, because having experienced that, for example, when Helldivers 2 is playable, be vocal about the things you don't like. Be vocal. Do not blindly praise things. Be vocal. If something's bad, point it out and say it. Even if some people don't agree with you, it's important to talk about it. We should have a conversation about these things. But at the same time, don't... How do I put this in a way that doesn't sound mean? Because I was going to say mean of way. Don't celibacy yourself from, like, enjoying things in life. Like, oh, I'm so mad at the developers. Like, okay, but do you still like playing the game? If you still like playing it, still play it. Enjoy it while it's here. Because there's going to come a day when it won't be. And that day will come sooner than you think. I remember that day for Call of Duty. I remember that day for Total War. I remember that day for Halo. I remember that day for World of Warcraft. I remember that day for StarCraft. I remember that day for Diablo. I remember it for everything. I can remember each day in which that stopped being a thing. Where it's like, yep, and now it's over. And now it's over. And a lot of people are in denial about it. A lot of people just kind of like play it, but like you can tell that the excitement's not there. I remember the day is clear when we went to go pick up Halo 4 from the GameStop. I remember we went there. I had a GameStop account even. Oh, look at me, real loser now. But we went to go get Halo 4 and we picked it up, and my buddy and we beat it sitting on the couch. And I remember feeling not necessarily disappointed at the time, but just like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know how to take that. And it wasn't disappointment yet because it didn't quite connect. It felt like it was like this situation where it was like, oh, that's just kind of doesn't feel right. That felt off. Like it wasn't terrible, but something was wrong. And the more you think about it, then it begins to unravel. And it was sitting there talking to my friend on the couch while we talked about our experience. And when we vocalized it, that it began to form everything that was wrong. The things that were good, the things that were okay, the things that were bad, the things that were terrible. And it just unravels. It unravels before your very little fish eyes. Oh my gosh. Richard Phillips says, I'm burnt out on Souls, Souls likes. I'm just not interested in fighting boss 10 times for 20 minutes at a time. That's fair. I mean, fatigue and copycat games are a problem. That has been the case in the gaming industry forever, right? Before, the Medal of Honor likes, it was the Quake likes, right? and then it was the Medal of Honor games, and then it was COD's BTFO'd Medal of Honor out of the way pretty quickly too, within a generation, right? Because Medal of Honor is just in the PlayStation 1, and then PlayStation 2 rolled around, and COD came around, and then COD fought Medal of Honor, but COD definitely was winning because of the whole like having this like NPC companion system was really cool. It made you feel like you were fighting in a war because they could handle like a bunch of allied NPCs fighting alongside you, which made you feel like the battles were big. Versus Medal of Honor was just you by yourself running around, blapping away, you know. Let's see. Zombie Mecha Mythic says there are no real defining games for young gamers anymore. Games that everyone played, be it like Halo or Call of Duty, OG Minecraft, Left 4 Dead, games that defined an era. You are kind of right. There are some games that stand out. Like Dune Awakening is a game that stands out to me. Hytale, when it releases, will probably be a game that stands out to some. But there's nothing Titanic. We don't have the Titans. That feeling of like colossal games anymore. And I wonder if that's bad or good. Because a part of me is like, the reason why that felt that way is because it was kind of like the only games you could look forward to were like the big games. There was a couple of exceptions, right? Like with Xbox Live Arcade or like these arcade stores where you had Bat Princess on the PlayStation, or you had, friggin', what the hell is it called? Monday Night Combat on Xbox Live Arcade. There was a couple of standouts like that where there was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. But like, beyond that, it was kind of like waiting for the next big thing to drop. And then usually it was just like big thing, and then like, oh yeah. And then wait a couple months, and then maybe another big thing, and then wait a half a year, big thing. And that's how it usually felt. It would be like a series of big things, and then playing those big things, and then that passing. Enigma mentions Fortnite. I imagine, a lot of the younger guys are probably, or younger, not guys, they're probably little kids. They're probably playing Fortnite. That must be something I don't understand. I tried Fortnite because chat paid me to. I do not like that kind of game. Don't even know how those younger kids can play it. But hey, if they're having a good time, good for them. Not for me, though. That's not for me. That's not for me. Battle Royales are, in concept, interesting to me, but I find them kind of boring. It's like such a wait for just a thing to die, to wait, to do it again, to get some kills and get a good streak, and to die and do it again. And it's like, The permadeath thing's not interesting. Maybe I'm more of an arena shooter player, perhaps. Like, I love my Halo big teams. Wee wee!
I need to go pick up pizza now. I'm going to go walk dogs for a bit.
All right, enjoy
And then
picking
I
up
took
your
a shower,
pizza,
so
boy.
I'll, not expected you to immediately go, so I'll be back in a bit.
Okay, enjoy pizza. Lucky bastards getting pizza. Damn it. I did find out that there is a Godfather's pizza. I've never had them. Or no, I have. Back when I was at Boy Scouts. Yes, that was when I discovered what taco pizza was. And it blew my mind. And I know many of you are like, it's salad on pizza. But listen, hear me out. You should try it. It's actually not that bad. All right, whatever. Food recommendations aside, taco pizza is pretty good in my opinion. All right, so let's see. Liza P was a fantastic game, but had enough of the format. I've heard a lot of people say mean things about Liza P. It's definitely a Souls-like game, so I don't really have any real understanding of those games. Egan says Halo 5 is worse than 4. I don't care. I'll be real. Not to be mean to you, Eaglets, but they both suck. The one thing I thought Halo 5 did better, in my opinion, though, than 4, was that the gunplay felt a little bit more refined. But the problem is that beyond that, that's the only nice thing I can think of. The other thing I think of is that the Warzone mode would be nice if it didn't have the rec system. I thought Warzone was a cool iteration of Big Team Battle, but they only added a few maps, which kind of made the whole thing kind of pointless, and it felt tacky as crap because the microtransactions slop. I become more anti-microtransaction as time's gone. I used to be kind of what I felt kind of like, you know, so long as it's just cosmetic. But like as time goes on, I'm starting to like hate that more and more. Maybe because I feel like microtransactions feel like nickel and diming. Perhaps. I don't know. It might just be the games I've played recently where they do that and it just comes off as tacky because the paid content feels like it's not worth it. Like Paradox charging like $20 for expansion, but what does the expansion do? It adds base game mechanics. And it's like, dude, at this point, I would rather crowd support an indie dev and just give them like X amount of money a month for iterative progress than for you to sell me a basic mechanic such as infrastructure. Because at this point, that's basically what I'm doing with you. You're a AAA publisher with a bajillion dollars, and you bajillion have easy reach with any of your games. And yet you're pretending you're an indie, like you're crowdsourcing, is what it feels like. Where you're like, okay, to add this feature, you know, it costs amount of time. All right. But like, you're a multi-million-dollar company. Like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Like, oh my God. You're making millions of dollars. You have full-time employees, and you're telling me that you're adding like the basic mechanic from the previous game in, but you're charging me $20 for it. I don't know. It just gets under my skin, I guess. Maybe I'm just overthinking it right now, but it's just really agitating, you know? It's like I feel like we're being nickel and dimed here. It feels kind of rancid. It feels kind of raunchy. Fortnite was awful, so shallow and stuffed full of marketing. Yeah, I kind of feel that way. I kind of feel that Fortnite is kind of like predatory with its monetization system, mostly because it's like the way it's targeted is to target like kids, but at the same time, I'm not sure how I feel about it entirely. It's like, well, what about a Toys R Us? Like when I went there, and help me chat with this thought process because I've never really formulated my thought on this fully yet. Like when I was a kid, I go to Toys R Us, and Toys R Us was super cool. For those that don't know, it's like a store, kind of like Walmart, but for like fucking toys. For the little boys and little girls, there was like everything you could imagine. For girls, there was like dolls and Dreamhouse stuff and all that stuff. And for that's like a sports section. Then it had like army toys and stuff like that, and movie toys from like, you know, Star Wars and whatnot, and board games, and even had a video game section. I do remember that. Yeah, it did actually. That was back when the N64 was a thing. Oh my God, that's wild. No, those weird little boxes they had too. They were kind of like rectangles. They were strange. They really were strange. Man, when boxes were so strange. Or the GBA boxes, the tiny little GBA boxes. Yeah, I remember that. That was funny. Then the DS came out. Damn, they really upgraded with those like plastic boxes that basically opened up with the manuals inside. That was nice. Does they remember Toys R Us? Yeah, I think everybody remembers it. I think every kid remembers it because every kid wanted to go there. I know that much. And you always like, I remember going there like, oh, cool, I want to look at the toys. I want one so bad. And then you'd be like, hoping that your parents would like let you have something. I remember that. And you took a slip to wait. What? Well, what? Night Music says, and you took a slip to reserve a game at Toys R Us. Huh, I don't even remember that. I guess that would have been something my parents would have done. I don't remember that at all. I just remember walking around the aisles. Or maybe I do remember it. I don't know. I need to think about it more. Because I have to actively think about those memories. But yeah, that was a weird time. The Stellaris expansions are laughable. I think the fans have Stockholm Syndrome. I unironically feel that Paradox is one of the worst companies on the market. For a while, I was like, oh, Paradox is like better than Total War because like producing games that people want, right? And it kind of felt that way when like encountering Hearts of Iron after it had been out for a few years. So it had, you know, patches and wasn't launched. And a lot of games like EU4 had been out for a while, so it had patches. So, and then Stellaris' launch felt like a golden age, you know? And then it was like realizing as you like you're in this Paradox rabbit hole where you're discovering these games, and then you're like experiencing these new Paradox games coming out, and the eye-opening revelation that Paradox is this absolutely putrid little corporation where they're just like, yeah, so we're gonna charge you like 30. We're not. Oh my God, no, they're worse now. Oh my God, we gotta look at that. No, I don't want to actually. I don't want to, because I had to buy it for fucking streaming because I intend to do a stream of it later. Oh, so they do these things, and they're terrible, chat. I have to tell Chump about it because I have to mark it down on the tracking sheet for business purchases, for stream stuff. But you buy fucking expansion pack passes now. And these you know what? Fuck it. I'm showing you. Because if I had to buy it for streaming purposes, then by God, we all need to look at this. Because this is actually bad. I just don't want to look at it because I don't want to be reminded about how much money I feel like I wasted. Fuck, I killed myself. I'm lamenting and complaining a little too much. I know. It's just one of those things where it's just like, man, it just feels like we're really being screwed over, is what I have to say. Yeah, look at this crap. Oh, wrong button. Wait, why don't I see it now? Is it because I own it now? Ah, crap. I gotta like log in to a thing that's not has my account logged in. Hearts of Iron expansion pass. Yeah, so like, hold up. Can you take me to the expansion pass so I can see how much money it is, please? Thank you. There we go. All right. Stop making noise, please. Thank you. All right, so let's look at Hearts of Iron 4 real quickly, because this is actually kind of terrible. Hearts of Iron 4 is how much money? It's like $50, right? That's not bad. I don't have an issue with that. $50 is like whatever. That's what I expect for a game. $50, yeah, I'm okay with that. And then the expansion pass, right? The expansion pass is basically the same price. And it's not the first pass either. This is the second pass. And it's basically $50 again. And ask yourself, is this content here, these things, no compromise, no surrender, piece of our time, warship models, and seaplane tenders, is this crap here the same amount of content that's in the base game doubled? No. It's not. It's not the same content doubled. In fact, it's a fraction of that content. It's like, if I had to break it down, it adds maybe 2 or 3 mechanics, because it adds like the electricity system, right? I think there's something like that. And it adds like some sort of field marshal thing or something. And that's it. And the rest it adds is like some models, some music, and like some focus trees. And that's it. And it's like, holy fucking shit. That's $50 for like 2 things that matter, which are like the mechanics, right? And the rest of that other crap might as well just be mods. Like, honestly. Oh my God. It's like, you charge me the cost of another game. Like, you might as well have just made Hearts of Iron 5 at this point. And that's why I hate this, because, like, oh God. I don't technically have to buy it, but I feel like I need to stream these things because I feel like I should cover this. But, like, every time I do, chat, I feel like I regret it every time. I think I do. Part of me is like, yeah, you know, it's good because we got some new Chatfish. And that's good, right? But, like, is it really worth it? I don't know. That's what I have to ask myself every day. Is it really worth it? And as I'm sitting here, sorry about the pause, I'm just thinking about this stuff. I just don't think it is. I just don't think it is. Even if it's a tax write-off. And for me as a content creator, by the way, it is a tax write-off. But, like, I feel like it's just terrible. How can you do this? How can we release a game for $50, right? Like, here's a game, $50. And it's like, by the way, here's a expansion pack. Okay, cool. Is it like Yuri's Revenge? Yuri's Revenge added a brand new faction, Yuri's faction. It added new units to all the playable sides in the game already. It added more maps. It added a whole new campaign for both the Allies and the Soviets. And it added new cutscenes and new music. That's pretty good. This expansion pass which is the same cost of the previous game. Oh, well, it's actually not. By like $1. It's off by like $1, right? Adds some 3D models, a song or two, and some focus trees. That's fucking terrible. That's actually terrible. Like, it adds some mechanics. It's like, okay, that's good that you added mechanics. That's good. But, like, that's it? Oh, my God. Like, we really got to cover Paradox in a separate, dedicated thing. The evil, like, of Paradox needs to be talked about. Like, because it's one of those things where it's just, like, it's so mind-boggling how they can just do that. And then, like, it's always the same. It's like, it's just like, people are like, it's fucking terrible. And they buy it. And they don't even blame them. You know why? Because I understand. Okay, who's the other competitive? Like, who else is making grand strategy games? Let's take a look. Looks like a little city builder. Like, that doesn't look particularly good. I remember looking at it. It's interesting. That's not really a grand strategy game. I don't really know. That doesn't really look like the same flavor. That's debatable, dude. That's like a board game. Come on. Yeah, things aren't looking good, boys. Like, none of these games are remotely similar, actually. Yeah, so they have a monopoly. And so that's why things suck. Terrible. Just pop in the CD. We used to get soundtracks for free with our games. Yeah, pop in the CD. I remember that. And you could actually download the little, what do you call them? MP4s or whatever. Because the MP4s were in the MP4 section of the folder. And it had the whole original soundtrack. Earth 2150 has that. It has all the song tracks, including unreleased songs that were never released into the game. Take care, Ponzan. Have a good sleepy. See you in the next stream, buddy. But yeah, okay. We're I know firesides are allowed to be podcasts, but I do think I'm letting myself drift into forever rambles mode. We should probably move on to the next thing, shouldn't we, chat? Shouldn't we? Because I could probably talk forever because I have way too many opinions, and honestly, I'm not sure if that's good or bad. I'm just an opinionated little kid. What can I say? Actually, no, I think that's good. At least for me. It's good for me because I'm a content creator. And my job is to make fucking noise at you. That's unironically true, by the way. It's like, okay, he makes a lot of noise at me and my ears hurt. Oh, wow, rude, chat. Saying your ears hurt? Cruel. Cruel and unusual to me, Kib. Your benefactor, your god. MP3 is music, MP4 is videos. MP5 is for problem solving. What? My nose tickles. Stop. WAV? I do remember WAVs. Waves, yeah. Remember to squish that C, Kibs. Chibs? God damn it, chat. Why do you want me to be called Chibs now? This is started by Chumpus. Alright? Like, this is not a natural thing. Crap, I don't actually... Alright, so, like, I'll be honest with you guys. I was so busy fucking, working on my little car with my dad. Because my dad helped me, which is really nice of him. Because we put on brake pads. And that was nice. It was actually nice hanging out with my dad. Just chatting. I actually like that quite a bit. Maybe I'll break my car for fun again. I'm kidding. It's expensive. Let's not do that. But it was nice. But one thing I have to say is, like, my God. I did not plan the next stream of the day. I don't even have a plan. I just was so busy getting ready to get stuff done that I fucked up. I think I need to commit Kib aside. We'll call it Kib time. Best time. I don't want to do a paid request because I don't want to do one without you guys being aware of it in advance. That's my bad. I fucked up, chat. I apologize to my chatfishes. Like, what? Kib apologize. I'm going to write that in the description. Kib apologize. Apologize. That's got negative connotations based on what that's referencing, actually. I don't like it anymore. But I will allow it. I will allow it because I think it's funny. And my biased opinion is the only opinion. I know, stark contrast to how this conversation began. By the way, I am serious though. If you guys are indie devs and you have never seen Timothy Kane's stuff, seriously check it out. He's got a lot of interesting opinions. You may not need to agree with them, but it's good to have new ideas, new thoughts, new things. It's just good to have conversations. I'm just going to use that as a thumbnail. We'll figure out what to stream next, won't we? MP4 was epic back when films were still good. To me, I downloaded hundreds of films, says Richard Phillips. Uh-oh. The movies are gonna... No, I see. Curious. You know, you reminded me of a time of my dad. Oh my God, my dad did this for me. So he printed out, he burned games to a CD for me. And then, technically, I think they were either demos or pirated stuff. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really understand how it works. I'm a little kid, and I barely know how CDs work because they kind of disappeared. They're not really relevant. I have a lot of them for PC, but like I never engaged with burning or any of that. But he burned a bunch of demos onto a disc, and I played them. And I remember telling my dad which ones I liked and which one I didn't. And he did that for my PlayStation 1 as well, which was weird. I don't know how he did that. But yeah, so like that was cool. And then I remember like I want that one or that one. Yeah, it was neat. I even learned to trip and compress myself. What? What does that mean? Test play a funded request? No. Because otherwise they might see it and then they get mad at me. Like, you're doing my request without me. It's actually happened before. I should test things outside of stream. I have learned my lesson. Until I forget, and then you all can criticize me later because I've forgotten. And in which case, you know, what can I do except say, whoops. Accidents happen when you're just a humble little kid. Kids live their lives. Man, kids do live their lives. But honestly, should they? Just kill them. Chet, no! You're so violent today, Chet. So aggressive towards me. I'm just happy that there's a pizzeria near me, Chet. I can't believe it. That means I could order a pizza. I'm not doing that this week. In fact, no. I think I'm going to save this month. But, like, I think I'm going to do that next month. That's going to be something we're going to try. We're going to try a new pizzeria. Should we? I'm scared. What if it's bad? Oh, fuck. So curious. So curious, chat. All right. We're going to raid into the next stream. Thank you for popping by. If you like the stream, be sure to drop a like. If not, no worries. You know, I'll cry about it later. And don't forget to check out Timothy Kane's video. I have posted in the description. Let me just double check to make sure it's there. It is there. What? Oh, yeah, it is there. Yeah, good. Good. It's in the description. So if you want it, pop it open there and, you know, check it out. He's actually a pretty interesting guy. He's got some very interesting thoughts. Definitely give it a listen. I'll see you guys in the next stream in a few minutes. For those who don't follow me there, have a fantastic day. And I'll see you in a few minutes, chat. Bye-bye.